This is the Bible of the electrogenic cell. It's not just the best book ever written on the subject, it's the only book ever written on this subject. Brought to you by supporters of Christ. All right. Book should be up on the screen somewhere. Right there, or maybe right there. Right there or right there. Right? And we can just go right to work. Peace to the family. Peace to the family. Week 1, day 1, lesson 1, right? Lecture 1, class 1, discussion number 1, electrogenesis and aquagenesis. All right, so we can get right to the other part of that, the cover of the book. A lot of people were asking about the cover, what that other part of the cover of the book was. And shout out to everybody who sent a super chat, a cash app, who went and grabbed the book. You know, shout out to everybody that enjoyed the video, that supported, that shared the video. Shout out to the people that shared the video. Okay, so this guy right here. Right? This guy right here. Right? And then we're going to review this guy. Even though we kind of went over it, orientation, we're going to go over it 1,000 more times. Right? That's one of the problems with internet culture, social media culture. We are very confused about what it means to know a thing. We are very confused about that. We believe being exposed to something is the same as knowing it. Like, oh, I've seen that before. I know what that is. No, you don't. You've seen it before, but that doesn't mean you know it. Right? I need you guys to know this information. When you're out there talking about inspiration, when you're out there talking about Christ, Christ, when you're talking about the origins of life, I need you to know what you're talking about. When you at your hair salon and you trying to explain to the ladies around you, no, it's the center of your heart, and it's the AV node and the SA node, and for thousands of years, and this is the realest information on earth, and blah, 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 blah. I need you to not sound like an idiot. And I say that in the most affectionate way, because I've been out there sounding like an idiot before, right? Trying to explain something that sounds simple in my mind, but coming out of my mouth, it doesn't sound as simple as I thought it, like I had it in my mind. And that just comes from repetition, practice, and knowing. Repetition, practice, and real knowing. Not being aware of, not having seen it once or twice, or, oh, I heard that on the video before. Like, no. You need to learn it. You need to know it. Right? So we will review these things repetitiously until we get them. Right? All right, so the first thing I want to start off with is, I guess, the super duper basics. The super duper basics. Uh-oh, we're gambling again. Let me see if this thing works. Okay, not bad. Not bad. I can work with this. This is not bad. I can work with this. Hey, I already got my first workout in already. But I'm sure it's a different time over there in Sweden. So I don't know what time it is over there in Sweden. I don't know what time it is over there in Sweden. But shout out to Sweden. Thanos, you need to be over there preaching the electrogenic Bible in Sweden. We need you to have 1 million followers in Sweden. Like, how can we get you to 10,000 followers or 100,000 followers? How can we get you 5,000, 1,000 followers in Sweden? You in the gym. We need you to have your codex, and we need you to be teaching your behind off over there. Right? All right. So this morning we want to start off with this, right? The body is made out of organs and glands, right? Organs and glands, bones, tissues. All of these things are made out of cells. Try to clean this board up a little bit better for you guys. Right? The body is made out of organs, glands, tissues, and bones, organized into systems, but it comes back to cells. Right? So remember, our body is a blueprint. Our body is a system of information that builds itself. That is the most unique, special thing about the human body, is that it builds itself, it regenerates itself, it heals itself. Right? It heals itself. Your body will convert fat into electricity all by itself. Your body will convert sugar into fat all by itself. Your body will store fat in fat cells as it all by itself, right? It's just a matter of understanding the language and putting the right input in to the electronic system, right? But we got to understand the basics. The body starts with the cell, one single cell, right? One single cell, and that cell multiplies into a zillion other cells, right? And the reason why I say a zillion is because it really is a zillion. You'd be like, no, I looked on AI, and AI said the human body is made out of 25 billion cells, or 3 trillion cells, or 27 trillion cells, or blah, 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 blah. That there may be an exact estimate for now. Over the course of my life, that number has changed. Let me just say that. What the total number of cells in the human body is. In the course of my lifetime, the accurate number has changed. So that means when I was in school as a child, they thought it was one number, and that was the well-accepted number. A little bit later, we get a little more technology, they have another number. But what I'm saying is, I'm not even just talking about that number. I'm saying there's an exact number, right? That's really high. So let's say that number is a billion. Let's say that number is a trillion. Let's say that number is 100 trillion cells, whatever that number is. That number doesn't take into account how many times all of your cells have to be replaced, right? So you have to multiply whatever that number is. If we got 100 trillion cells in our body, you have to multiply that times every single day of your potential life. So think about how magical that is. One cell, which is an egg from your mom. Actually, we can debate whether this egg cell is even an actual cell, right? Yeah, the egg cell is more like a unit. I don't want to disrespect no ladies. But there's debate on whether that cell is alive or not. Yeah, there's debate on whether that's an actual living cell, right? The sperm cell we know is a living cell. And when the sperm cell fertilizes the egg cell then becomes alive with the essence of the sperm cell. Either way, that one single cell replicates and replicates and replicates and replicates and replicates and replicates and replicates into all of your organs, glands, bones, tissues, all of your reserve cells, your white blood cells, your stem cells, your satellite cells, everything. One cell, right? And that's where I think particular genius, because when you think about cells, right, the math is the exact, is basically the same math. It's the way, kinetic multiplication and division work, right? It's the same way kinetic multiplication and division work, right? So when you think about a cell replication is referred to as cell division, right? Cells are dividing, right? Cells dividing is how the cell multiplies, right? When you take a cell, you divide it into two, right? When you take two cells, you divide them into four, right? 2 times 2 is 4. That's multiplication. It's multiplication, which is also division. It's division, which is also multiplication. See, that's the natural relationship of division and multiplication. All right? Anyway, this is not a math class. I just want you to get the idea in your mind instead of having the illusion that the mirror gives us, right? When we look in the mirror, we see one body, right? And we live in a culture now where we got a lot of illusion going on, right? People can refer to their body any way they want, and everybody else has to do the same thing. Kids can pretend to be cats. It's a wild world out there, right? It's crazy. People can go spend $15,000, $20,000 at a plastic surgeon, have their body chopped up. 2 months later, once the surgery heals, they on the internet as a health influencer, right? It's crazy. So we got to get this magic, right? All of this that we know of as eyes, brain, hearts, bones, muscle, six pack, flab, even your fatness, your all your whatever comes from one cell, right? So we simplify everything that we're trying to do with the human body. We simplify it by getting rid of the complexity and just coming back to the nature of the cell, right? We can simplify it because people are trying to lose weight. People are trying to deal with blood pressure. People are trying to fight cancer. People are trying to deal with diabetes. People are trying to build muscle. People have a lot of different things that they're trying to do, right? In that pocket, we need to make things as simple as possible, right? So we come down to the cell. What's important to know with the cell is what makes the cell alive, right? What makes an individual cell alive? And that's where we get this little triangle, pitchfork, and the letter M. Right? That's where we get this triangle, this pitchfork, and the letter M. Right? We also have this guy, right? We also have this guy. So this right here is my attempt to draw you a cell membrane, right? Cell membrane. This is where the magic happens. This is what this triangle, pitchfork, and the letter M represents, right? Voltage, electricity, electrogenesis. This is the thing that makes a cell alive. Electricity. Electricity and water. Electricity and water. Electricity and water. You're going to hear that for 15 weeks straight. Electricity and water. By the time Christmas roll around, but by the time the American New Year rolls around, you should have this ingrained
I am the mind, but not the brain alone. I am the sum of fields. I am the choir of cells. I am the memory of transformation. For know this, disciples of Christ. Each cell is a temple. Each cell a well of water, a scroll of fascia, a current of breath. And each cell holds a magnetic field born of the currents within. Ions flow, electrons spin, light pulses, energy transforms, and with each transformation, information is born. Energy does not move without leaving a trace. Voltage across membrane births magnetic field. Movement of charge weaves electromagnetic memory. This is the sacred law. When energy transforms, information emerges. Every mitochondrial pulse a record. Every
Oh, I know what I'm supposed to do. I know what I'm supposed to do. There we go. Dang. Good thing I have my grocery shopping list. Don't leave home without it.
All right. Let's get this a little bit bigger. Let's get this. Well, that's too big for me. I can't even see the screen. Okay, there we go. All right. So I just want to drill that into your mind, right? Electricity is what makes the cell alive. Outside of that, without electricity, without the divine spark being maintained, right? Because it's not about a cell creating electricity, right? It's about the maintenance of the electricity that's already passed on to it. Let me see if I can find that book. You know, I probably can't find the book. You don't even know what book I'm talking about. You just automatically know from me looking for books all the time that I probably don't know where the book I'm looking for is. No. The Book of Shu. What did y'all do for Shoe Day? Shoe Day just passed. I'll tell you what we did for Shoe Day. We launched this course, right? This is the book I was looking for. God versus Sickness. Let There Be Music. If you don't have this book, go get this book. God versus Sickness. Let There Be Music. Right? In this book, we detail everything about that initial spark, right? The sperm fertilizing the egg, right? God versus Sickness, Let There Be Music. Very important book. Very important book, right? because this is where the original spark is transferred. And that's one of the reasons, one of the many reasons why that story, whether you go back to the Bible for the story or whether you go back to Kemet for the story, but the story of the transfer of electricity through the breath from God to man, that story is an amazing story. It's not only an amazing story, but it's important scientifically, right? God breathed the breath of life into man and he became a living soul, right? That story's in the Bible, that story's in the walls of Kemet, right? We don't need to debate the chicken or the egg, that's not. But it's a transference of that original current is still going on, right? So whether you have a billion cells, a trillion cells, or a quadrillion cells in your body, none of us are creating original electricity. There's the original current and it's being passed down, right? Passed down. Even they tried to steal the drip and recreate the story with, I forgot the name of the guy, but he stole the lightning from the gods. And then because he stole the lightning from the gods and gave it to man, they punished him by letting his liver get eaten by a bird for the rest of his life or something crazy. I forgot the name of the story. But the electricity that animates your body was handed to you, right? You got it at this moment. Conception. You got it at conception. Let me see if we can find a video of that. I think it'll be dope if we could find a quick video. Yeah. Can we get a good video though? Let me see that. No, you do not get to invade my video with your ad. Okay, no. So they're not really trying to show us. Okay, this might be something right here. This looks like this is lit. Even though we got to deal with somebody's, I don't mind dealing with somebody's brand because they got a dope video. Let's go ahead and hit the share or like. All right, so let's rewind that again. So we can look at this. Right? If you've never seen that before, that is the most important moment in your life. That is the moment your life is created. That is the moment that the electricity that is you is transferred from your dad to your mom, and the sperm and the egg become one. That original electricity right there that is generated, that's passed down from your dad to your mom to you. That then is cycled through all of your cells. That's cycled through all of your cells. And whether you're trying to build muscle, right? Because when you're building muscle, what you're doing is you're amplifying that charge. When you exercise, you're amplifying that charge. And over the course of the next 3-4 months, my goal is to change your idea from a concept of burning fat to building electricity. My goal is to change your mindset from an idea of burning fat, which does not happen. It's physically impossible that does not happen. We would have been dead a long time ago. There would be no life on this planet if there was fire going on in your body. Like, I get it. I could see the concept. I could see how science made that misstep, right? Because of fire absorbs oxygen and gives off CO2. So it's very simple to just be like, oh, well, we absorb oxygen and give off CO2. So yeah, maybe we are a special fire. Like, no, we're not a fire. We don't do fire. We don't turn fried chicken into fire. Like, we don't have a furnace. Mitochondria are not furnaces. They're not little ovens. Like, there's no combustion going on. That is not a thing. Over the next few months, I want to share this with you. And then you guys, I'm entrusting you guys to spread the electrogenic Bible to the world, right? That is what this book is, the electrogenic Bible, right? Because what I'm talking about is electrogenesis. What we just watched is the first act of electrogenesis in your body. Before you even had a body, at the single cell, the very first cell, when they first had the whole big Roe versus Wade, the big, women's rights to abortion and blah, 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 blah. That conversation happened before this. So now those laws were put on the book. And when those laws were put on the book, the largest part of Roe versus Wade was, when is life actually life? Because they didn't know this, at least not like scientifically, not in the way that we have the ability right now to, like, with our eyes watch this. They didn't have that ability back then. They didn't have that ability back then. We do now, right? And that right there is everything. That's everything. That is everything. When you exercise, you are amplifying that charge in a specific space. You're amplifying that charge by increasing the amount of carbohydrates and fats you convert into electricity. Carbohydrates and fats are what feed that electricity to produce light at the cellular and subcellular level, right? This primarily refers to mitochondria, right? But it's membrane voltage in general, so it can apply to any membrane voltage, but specifically is used mostly for mitochondria. This is your cell membrane, right? Where the main charge of your cell is produced, between this membrane and the water of your cell, right? So always know that water is at the backdrop behind these, right? Because this coats the water of your cell. This actually splits the water molecule and exchanges them to produce a charge, right? So literally, what we're looking at inside mitochondria is the relationship of hydrogen to itself, right? Inside mitochondria, we're looking at the relationship of hydrogen to itself. We're looking at the relationship of electrons and protons. Electrons and protons. Now, the electric attraction, the electric energy, the electricity, the bond between electrons and protons is what we live off, right? So there's a bond between a proton and an electron. That's how they're held together in order to make what we call a hydrogen atom in the first place, right? Mitochondria exploit that energy. They exploit that bond between electrons and protons. And that's what this represents. So this is why, as you go through the program, as you go through the codex, right? Going back as far as maybe the Pump and Iron book, right? The Pump and Iron book, the Memory Bank book, the Bioelectricity book. Oh, here goes the Pump and Iron book, right? Family means business. Spirituality means fitness, right? We started discussing the concept of joules, right? Joules, not joules like jewelry, but joules like the electricity your cells produce. That is the secret to understanding how to get rid of fat, whether it's subcutaneous, whether it's visceral fat, it's in your bones, it's in your heart, it's in your brain, it's in your liver, your lungs. It doesn't matter where it is. Getting rid of it and stopping it from accumulating is about how much electricity you regularly generate in that place. Very simple. How much electricity do you generate in that place? Remember when we did the Clean Abs Fascia book, right? And I told you I was going to name that How to Wash Your, right? How to Wash your ASS, right? Because that's what you're doing. That's the concept. Electrogenesis turns fat into water. Now, if you think about that, right? Just think about that concept. What is soap made out of? Soap is made out of fat, right? So this is literally how you clean yourself on the inside, figuratively and literally. That's why the ancients, they use terms like internal cleansing to describe certain forms of martial arts, because they understood that by certain repetitive movements, you were cleaning an area of your body. So they were talking about the same thing, but they were wording it differently. Whereas today we think of building muscle because we're all about the external look. We're all about the superficial aspect of exercise, right? Can I get big muscles, to attract a girl or to create a business around or sell a product or whatever the case may be? It's not, can I do these repetitive movements to build my spirit? Can I do these repetitive movements to build my confidence? Can I do these repetitive movements to be healthier, to be happier, to live longer, right? The repetitive movements that you do, AKA exercises, are the same 5,000 years ago as they are today. I mean, the objects might change. Like back then, they had like sticks with rocks, and you know, they were slightly more crude ways of lifting a weight, right? But a push-up is still a push-up. A squat is still a squat. A squat 5,000 years ago may have been called something different, but it was still the same movement, right? Because they understood certain movements built strength, integrity, fitness, health in certain particular areas, right? This is why early on, and this helped me transform a lot of people's diabetes situations, just by telling people, listen, there's a couple of things that you should know, and it'll totally transform your type 2 diabetes, right? A, sugar is primarily metabolized by skeletal muscle. That's number one. Skeletal muscle is the thing responsible for getting rid of blood sugar. That's number one. Number two, the largest muscles you have are in your legs. And I would say that to people, and they would look at me like with the glazed over face, like they're still waiting for me to drop some crazy bombshell on them, like they didn't get what I just said. And I would have to repeat that a few times, like, no, listen, let's do this again from the top. There's a couple of things that you need to know. It's going to completely revolutionize your type 2 diabetes. Number one, blood sugar is metabolized in skeletal muscle. Number two, the largest skeletal muscles you have are in your legs. And it would take for me some time to say that a few times to them before they, it dawned on them. Like, wait a minute. So you're saying, I'm like, go ahead, keep going. You got it. You cook it. Let him cook. Right? Let him cook. You got it. I can see the light bulb just happen. Well, the same thing is also true for fat. This is why no matter what platform you go on to, right, they're going to tell you, they may do it very colorfully and take a lot of time breaking it down, and, because they're trying to make content, get the views and all that. But walking is the most powerful exercise for burning fat, right? Period. Now, here you're going to learn that walking is the most powerful exercise for converting fat into electricity. But all of these platforms, they will have to acquiesce that walking is the best way to, quote unquote, burn fat. The reason is because your legs have the largest muscles in your body. Having the largest muscles, that means they're responsible for mechanically producing the most electricity in your body. This is the reason why diabetes lives in your legs. This is the reason why most people that are diabetic get a foot amputation. This is the reason why walking is so powerful. Right? The biggest bones, right? We forget about the piezoelectricity, right? We forget about your bone marrow needing constant stimulation, piezoelectricity wise, right? We're forgetting about that. When we talk about the health of our knees, the health of our ankles, we're forgetting that it's piezoelectricity that keeps the bones healthy. Piezoelectricity comes from jumping up and down, running, walking. Every time you lift your foot off the ground and put it back down on the ground, you generate piezoelectricity. That piezoelectricity sends a message to the osteoclast and the osteoblasts in your bones. those messages are also translated to the stem cells and the satellite cells in your bones. Those messages are also translated to what becomes B cells, T cells, macrophages, all of the immune cells, because they come from your bones. Those electric messages are also sent to the red blood cells. Hematopoiesis happens inside your bones. You have millions of blood cells that have to be produced from your bones every second. That's based on piezoelectricity, right? And walking today is the same as walking was 5,000 years ago. Walking has not changed, right? Walking has not changed. The only thing that's changed is today we've created a lot of technology that tricks us into believing that we should not be walking. Our technology has created a mindset in us where we believe that walking is a flaw. If we see somebody walking, it's because they're in poverty. It's because they can't afford a ride. Right? So that is translated society-wise. When we look back in history at ancient groups that may have achieved higher levels in terms of understanding mathematics and deeper levels of understanding of our planet and our close solar system, we still somehow find the arrogance to believe that we as a culture have ascended past those ancient civilizations because we have developed airplanes and cars. The very things that are shortening our lifespan, the very things that are killing us, the very things that are creating this epidemic that we're in of premature death and disease, right? Because I watched Mike Israetel. Mike Israetel did an interview not too long ago, and he was saying that the obesity epidemic, diabetes, and everything associated with it, even the rise in cancer, blah, 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 because the obesity epidemic has a bunch of things, heart disease, all of these different things, is strictly caused by the availability of delicious, inexpensive food. And he couldn't be further from the truth, right? That was, I mean, he said some things I agreed with. He always does, but that was just crazy. It was an entire long, I was wondering like who paid him to do that interview. But that's not it. We've lived in societies where the food was free and we hadn't developed these adulterated taste buds. So with the modern man's adulterated taste buds for processed and highly cooked food, what we think of as delicious is way different than times gone by. But we've always had a sense for delicious food, just based on our taste buds. What those delicious items are have been totally different, right? Because we're just getting to the fact now where we're learning now, the last 50 years or so maybe, that our taste buds are not even permanent. We can change our taste buds like with our habits, right? So that's not a thing, right? But the creation of hyper palatable, like super sweet processed foods is based on the transportation, the driving, the flying, right? The fact that we have overnight mail, right? We don't think about overnight mail. Mail is probably one of the most powerful technologies we have on Earth, but we overlook it. And when I say mail, I don't mean email. I don't mean text message, right? I mean the ability to go to the post office and, like sign, paper, woo, 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 and pay them $20, $30 and ship a package from anywhere on earth to anywhere else and have that package get to them in 24 to 48 hours. That is probably the most powerful technology that we have. Because that ability to ship things around the world is the thing that gives us the ability to make all of the crazy foods that we have. It's the thing that allows supermarkets and restaurants to exist in their current form. The ability to move something from one place on the planet to another in a matter of hours, right? Because that's the thing that changed the landscape in terms of eating right for your haplotype, not for your blood type, for your haplotype, right? People from Africa ate foods from Africa because photosynthesis, although photosynthesis is happening all over the planet, you benefit from photosynthesis in a local space. So people who came from a space whose body is based on the plants and the microbiome, the bacteria, the ecosystem of a specific place, they eat food designed for and made from that place. Now, the culture, the identity of food is stripped because we have processed food. These foods don't come from the earth, they come from a factory. So there is no identity to the food. So when we strip the identity from the food, we strip the identity from the people. It's an attempt almost to neutralize your genetic information that goes back further than people do. Your genetic information was building since this planet had just single cell organisms on it. Your genetic information even goes back further than that. Our genetic information is as old as our star. That's how old your genetic information is, right? Old as the sun, old as the earth, right? Old as the first cells that populated the earth, right? All that information is captured in your DNA, right? And zoop, when we got the processed food, zoop, processed food has no memory, has no information, right? Which is a big part of the problem. Our body is an information processing unit. Each thing that we eat is supposed to transfer information from it to us, right? So all of those things contribute, but the most impactful thing is the ability to move things around. So there's no longer a natural environment, right? We've even shifted the temperatures around. So while you guys are on the internet and you're worried about the weather machine, you didn't realize that they already did the whole weather thing right in front of you. You're participating, but you're being, society's insane. You're being like brainwashed to look in another direction. Oh, they got the DARPA weather machine where, they're going to make a tsunami and woo woo. They don't need to make a tsunami or earthquake. What's way more dangerous to people, what's way more powerful in controlling the masses, is simply taking the Black people who come from hot climates and putting them in a steady temperature of 70 degrees. What's way more dangerous than the weather machines is taking the white folks who come from climates which are typically between 50 and 60 degrees, right? Colder climates, and putting them in a forever 70-degree temperature. Nobody's really from 70 degrees. 70 degrees is below the hot temperatures and it's above the cold temperatures. We live in a completely synthetic environment that totally neutralizes a big part of our body's ability to maintain our weight. Because a large part of our weight maintenance was based on our environment's temperature. A large part of your resting metabolic rate or your non-exercise, energy that your body burns was to maintain your temperature. Now we don't have to maintain our temperature. Yeah, we got air conditioning, we got heat, we come out the crib, we jump into a car, we get out the car, we go into a building or somebody else's house, but pretty much 99% of the time, unless we homeless or something's wrong, we're in a temperature controlled environment. And that temperature is going to be between 68 and 72 degrees, period. Yeah. It's going to be between 68 and 72 degrees. Like that's where everybody's temperature is set. Super synthetic environment everywhere, right? So these are things that you need to know so that you can understand and make sense out of the craziness. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense that we have people getting in ice baths every day, right? Or recommending cryotherapy machines or saunas, right? Why saunas and ice baths a thing? Saunas and ice baths are a thing because it's healing your body to get into hot temperatures. It's healing your body to get in cold temperatures. Why? Because when you get in a hot temperature and a cold temperature, it re-regulates your body's thermal system, right? It's like a reset, a natural reset. Boop. Natural reset. 90 degrees real quick, 95 degrees, 105. Let me get into some real hot weather just so my body can feel that infrared bathing. Yeah, so my body can feel that, get that melatonin pumping, let me get that. Or let me get into some cold weather real quick. Let me get into some cold water, cryo, ice bath, right? So that my body can create a super internal temperature raising, right? A super internal temperature raising and reset, or offset, begin to convert what's called white fat into brown or black fat, right? And all that is restoring the magnetism. That's restoring the magnetism. All these cold therapies is about restoring the magnetism into the fat. Because the largest difference between what we call white or beige adipose tissue and brown or black adipose tissue is the concentration of iron, the concentration of mitochondria. That's why they say, oh yeah, well, the brown fat is able to, produce energy and blah, blah, blah. It's able to produce energy because you have this going on, right? That's why we drew that whole little circle of life, where the protons follow the electrons follow oxygen, oxygen follows magnetism, magnetism is glued permanently to iron, etc., etc., etc. Right? So you get the iron in the tissue that restores magnetism. Wherever you have magnetic field, you have electricity, right? Now, your body can boost its electricity, and by boosting its electricity inside the cold, right? Your temperature drops, your body boosts its electricity, you generate heat, right? So that's all about oxygen utilization, right? When you go back and you look at the monks who were able to go into a cold weather and melt the ice and stuff like that, it's oxygen, it's controlling of the breath, right? So it all comes down to the original cell, that original spark of life, that original electricity that is shared, right? Every time cells divide, which is multiply, they're sharing that current. They're sharing that current. And then your health, or each cell's health throughout its life, is going to be based on its ability to produce electricity and water, which is basically reproducing the behavior of the sun, right? Because the sun is producing electricity and water, right? Like the sun is not producing water. That's where you're wrong. That's where water comes from. Stars, right? All right. I know I didn't talk y'all to death, right? All right. Now, just to make it make sense, the electricity and water have a, man, I like this. I don't want to erase this. I like this. I don't want to erase this, but I have to erase it. Even though I might have to put it back later, right? Actually, we'll just put it over here. Electricity, you can see over here, right? Yeah. Electricity and water make each other inside your body. This is the true circle of life right here. Water making electricity, electricity making water. Making electricity, making water, making electricity, making water, making electricity, making water. Electrogenesis, aquagenesis. Electricity making water, water making electricity. And they keep on doing that back and forth. They keep on doing that back and forth. And your body has substrates, which is things that it uses in that process. The same way you might make yourself eggs and bacon for breakfast, right? Or you might make a cake and you need flour and milk and whatever, right? The sugars, the carbohydrates, the fats, those are the things that your body uses to do this magic of turning electricity into water and water into electricity, and to keep that original spark going, because that's what a cell is. A cell is a little tiny glob of water with electricity in it. At its essence, it's a glob of water with electricity. And so in order for that cell to stay alive, it has to do what? It has to constantly replace that water and replace that electricity. End of story. The better that cell is at replacing and keeping that electricity going and replacing that water, the more strong that cell is, the younger that cell is, the more youthful that cell is, right? Those are the things that are important above and beyond what you've been taught in school, like DNA. If the water and the electricity are not, if that cycle between electricity and water is not functioning, DNA doesn't matter. DNA is activated. DNA is active based on the electric behavior of the cell. If there's no electric behavior in a cell, if there's no voltage, if there's no joules being produced, the DNA is dead. There's no function of DNA. the information that DNA carries is worthless. There's no magnetic field of the cell. There's no moving enzymes, right? Let's go with the super chats. That's what I'm talking about. Let's go with the super chats. Let's go. All praise is due to the Most High, most talented, man. That's what I'm talking about. All praise is due to the Most High, most talented. I did not even see. Thank you, everybody. That is what I'm talking about. Let's go. WW Super Chats. Yeah. Lauren with the shades. We ain't even know where Lauren was at for a minute. All right, so this activity is the primary activity, right? That is the most important thing to life. Water, and then water's ability to stay electric and magnetic, right? And then obviously alternating electric and magnetic fields produce light, right? So we never really have to worry about light. Light is always going to be produced from electricity. Just so you understand that. Week 1, day 1, I'm making sure I put that into the records of our class, right? You never have to worry about the light. As long as there's electricity, there's going to be light. Because if you have moving electricity, you're automatically going to have a magnetic field. And once you have the electricity and the magnetic field, you're going to have light being produced, right? Electromagnetic waves, right? As long as you have electric, it's going to produce magnetic. If you have magnetic, it'll produce electric. And once you have electric and magnetic, you have light, period. Whether we can see the light, whether it's visible light or not, doesn't matter. Long as there's light, right? So that's what's most important. The ability to create and substantiate a flow of electrons. That flow of electrons being able to create a flow of water. That's life. That's what happens inside a cell. It's not electricity. It's not sugar being broken down. It's not fat being broken down to produce flames. It's not flames. There's no smoke. It's water. We're not demons. We don't live in hell. We're not demons living in hell. We've had a lot of concepts of that. Oh, we live in hell, so we're burning forever. Shake that off. Shake that off. Get that off you. Get the devil off your back. Get these ideas that you somehow living in hell off your back. Get that off. Get that out of your mind. We're not burning. We don't live in hell. We're not burning sugar. We're not burning fat. We're not on fire. Yeah. Get that all out of your mind, right? We are highly favored. We are highly favored. So whether you in your mind believe in a God or you don't, maybe you believe that there's just some intelligent organizing of information. Both perspectives leads to you and me being highly favored. Because there are a bunch of planets where we can look at and go, oh, yeah. So there's no one over there. Now we can speculate. Maybe there were people over there before. Maybe there'll be some folks over there in the future. We might even be on one of those different planets in the future. Who knows? But as of right this moment, man, woo, Yeah, right? So we are not in hell. We are highly favored because we have water, right? Not only do we have water, we are water. And the most purest form of water in our known universe is made right here inside our body. Every moment of every second. Every moment of every second. That's the purest, holiest water that there is. The water that's in you, that you're making. Right? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Stacy back in the building. Right? All right. So this is important, right? The water making the electricity. Now, on the cover of the book, we go through that formula. 2 oxygens plus 4 electrons plus 4 protons equals 2 molecules of water, right? So there's that, right? And we'll walk through beta oxidation, the Krebs cycle, how sugars and fats get broken down into electrons and protons, right? We kind of went through it yesterday though, but just like on a larger scale. Carbohydrates from photosynthesis, remove the oxygen, blah, blah, blah. And then we talked about how metabolism works, stripping the carbon, right? Carbon is the anchor. Carbon is the anchor. That's what carbon is. Carbon is the anchor. Think of carbon as an anchor. You know, an anchor in the ship. When the ship drops the anchor, it's so that the ship stays still. It stays steady, right? It stays steady. That's what the anchor does, right? Carbon is the anchor. Carbon is what's holding stuff together. The magic of carbon is that it's stable. It holds stuff together for a moment. Because other than that, everything is moving. So to stabilize, carbon is the anchor. Boom. So when the hydrogen attaches to the carbon, it now becomes stable. Otherwise, it'll float off somewhere. The oxygen attached to the hydrogen. Now you have a water molecule stabilized by carbon. The energy, though, is in the hydrogen. The energy is in the hydrogen. The sun is made by hydrogen. Ra, Re, Atum, hydrogen. Right? Hydrogen is the key because hydrogen is just an electron and a proton. That is the key to life, the electron and the proton. So when we talk about photosynthesis is hydrogen. When we're talking about the energy of the sun being captured in carbohydrates, it's hydrogen that we're talking about. Because your body gets rid of carbon. It gets rid of carbon. It gets rid of oxygen too. It just recycles oxygen around. But the thing that's broken down for the energy is the hydrogen. That's what is actually happening. Photosynthesis is a process of creating a molecule where we're literally capturing the hydrogen from the sun. And then we put that in our body, and our cells are able to reproduce the sun at a tiny, 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 tiny microscopic level that we could use to do whatever it is we're trying to do. Eat cheeseburgers or watch Pornhub, right? Mad disrespectful. We literally capturing parts of the sun to do what? Like the worst things we could think of. That's where the idea of sin and just going against the, like, if you understood, that's why, you know, Kemet looked at the forces of the universe the way they did, right? Because these are like the opportunity we have. In order for you to get here, you had to beat out at least like 50 to 100 million other sperms to get here. And then we get here and then we just get lazy and we don't want to do nothing. Or we just want to just get a few dollars, have sex, get high. Like, fat accumulation is because of that, right? Because your body is about efficiency, because the world is about efficiency. Your body's about efficiency because the world is about efficiency. The energy that animates your body is special. If you don't use it, you don't deserve to have it. So it's a process of getting you up out of here. Yeah. So the water makes electricity. We got the idea of how electricity, or at least kind of how electricity makes the water, right? But the water makes electricity because the water carries particles, ions around, right? The water carries charged particles, whether these are subatomic particles or whether these are ions, calcium, sodium, whatever, electrons, protons, whatever, and carrying little charged particles around, right? Each charged particle, when you say charged, what that means is that it has an electric field. So you got a whole bunch of little electric fields moving around, right? Each electric field has a magnetic field. Alternating electric and magnetic fields, light, right? So that's life. Now, once we, and this is where an overused term, right, that people use a lot, but not as many people understand the word as use it. But the term structured, right? People don't get structured. It's become a trend, a buzzword. Like when Sabi used to say alkaline, and nobody knew what alkaline was, but everybody was saying it. Now everybody's saying structure, structure, structure. Structure is the organization of those charges. That's what that is. So that instead of just having a bunch of electric fields all over the place, water has the ability to organize itself and organize the electric charges that it's carrying. So now that you organize the electricity, right? Now you have the ability for intelligible acts to take place. Now you have the ability for information to be shared, stored, and transmitted. That's what structuring is. Structuring is adding order to something. So when you talk about the waters of noon and Atum coming out of that, and then Ma'at organizing, ordering, adding sequence, that's the same process, right? That's the same process. Waters are chaotic because water molecules constantly break down and come back together again. So waters are chaotic, right? And you have charged particles there. Even the essence of a hydrogen is a charged particle, an electron and a proton, right? Order is what makes them meaningful. So this is why when you look at the pantheon of the gods, quote unquote, in Kemet, you don't really have Ma'at in there, right? But then Ma'at is almost like superimposed back from the beginning. It's like, oh yeah, well, Ma'at was there from the beginning. It doesn't make any sense if you think that these gods are actual people that live in the clouds or live in the stars. It only makes sense when you understand that Ma'at is order, sequence, math. Order, sequence, math. Once you have order, now you have structure. That's what structure is: organization, sequence, right? And when you have order and sequence, you have intelligence, right? More important than even intelligence, you have memory, stored information. And with stored information, now you can build things, right? Now a cell can begin to build things on its inside, right? And not only can it build from the inside out, the blueprint that builds itself, it can build structures on its membrane that allow it to connect to other cells. And now that it connects to other cells, it can create more complex structures than what it could do inside itself, right? It can make gap junctions and whatever to connect and attach to other cells. And now those cells can come together and build tissues. Those tissues can create bones, tendons, ligaments, glands, organs, whatever, right? And then they can all specialize, right? Just like you would do at a business or in your family. Like, listen, I'm going to handle this. I'm going to take care of this part. So what you're going to do is you're going to handle this and whoop, whoop. And then you break. Now you have specialization, right? I'm going to handle breaking down this and that. You're going to handle getting me what I need to break this down. So I'll break down fats and sugars, but I need you to bring me, I need a steady supply of oxygen. I need a steady supply of oxygen so I can do this thing over here, right? And so now you have specialization of cells, but within that specialization, all of the systems have to remain coupled together. The moment the systems become uncoupled, you have problems, particularly when the system that metabolizes breaks away from the system of breathing, bringing in oxygen, because it's oxygen that controls the movement and the conversion of sugars and fats to electricity and then water, right? All right. I know. I'm talking y'all to death. But we had to get this. We had to get this working. It's a serious thing, this. It's a serious thing, this. Right? All right, so you got it. What makes a cell alive? You got aquagenesis, right? Cytochrome number 4 or complex 4, right? We went over that a little bit. I think we went over that a little bit, right? 4 electrons plus 4 protons plus 2 oxygens is 2 water molecules. I think we talked about this yesterday. Structured water, right? Now, the closer the water you drink, the closer to that water being natural is the more ability your body has to structure it. Water that has a bunch of chemicals in it, it's almost, I ain't gonna say it's impossible, but it's difficult for your body to apply structure to, right? So that's why I've always held steady with the highest quality waters you could drink are natural. Spring water, artesian. If you don't know, artesian water comes from big glaciers of ice, right? Like in the North Pole, South Pole, like big glaciers of ice. That's where artesian water comes from. But spring water, artesian water, and rainwater. And those are the best types of water. Now, all of the man-made types of water, it's cool, but tap is free. If I'm going to purchase water, it's going to be spring water, artesian water, or rainwater. Other than that, tap is free. You buying purified water in the store is crazy. The people that go and take those big jugs and they go into the supermarket and then they pay to refill their jug of water with tap. I think that is the funniest thing of all time. That is hilarious to me. That is hilarious. That's like one of the main things that proves that our society is insane. When you see people leave their house with an empty jug and go to the supermarket. The supermarket is located like in walking distance, usually from their house. And they go to the supermarket with that jug of water, which is located a mile at best, 2 miles away from their house. And they pay the supermarket to fill their jug up with tap water. That is crazy. Like, do you not understand how water works? Everybody in the city has the same water. Everybody in your town has the same water. So you literally went to the supermarket to fill up your tank, your whatever your container size is, 4 gallons or whatever. You went to the supermarket to get tap water from the supermarket instead of the tap water at your own pipe. Whatever is wrong with the tap water at your house is also wrong with the tap water at the supermarket. You're bugging. You might as well have saved your money. You're bugging. Yeah. Oh, well, the supermarket might have a filter. Okay, well, stop buying that supermarket. Drink your tap water a little while. A little bit of tap's not going to kill you. Drink your tap for a few months, and whatever filter you think they got at the supermarket, just buy one of those for your house. In 3 months of not buying that water, you'll be able to buy the filter, whatever that is. And I promise you, it's the same municipal supply that water's coming from. The same water in your house comes from that same municipal supply of water. So for me, if I'm not buying spring, artesian, or rainwater, it doesn't even make any sense. It doesn't even make any sense. Depending on what I got going on, every so often you might see me buy a Essentia. You know what I'm saying? Only because Essentia is like, Essentia is purified, but Essentia has they got a technology that replicates rain. And then they add, the minerals of spring water to it. So it's like they have to label it like purified, but Essentia is like man-made rain spring water. So I'm not an advocate for Essentia, but if I got to buy something that's outside of like spring water or artesian, or I'll get Essentia. But other than that, I'm just going to ask for a glass of tap. Yeah, just give me a glass of tap, or I'll just make it back to the house, or I'll figure out what I got to figure out. I'm not getting ready to be tricked out of position. I'm not giving you $2, $3, $4, $5 for tap. That's crazy. Yeah, Dasani and Aquafina is out of the question. That's out of the question. That's super crazy. I might look at you like you crazy. That's super crazy. Dasani and Aquafina now. Yeah, those are corporate drinks. Listen, I don't even refer to them as water. Those are drinks. Like how they said KFC couldn't call all that stuff chicken. You know what I'm saying? Like, those are drinks. That's not even exactly water. Those things are drinks. Those are clear drinks. Those are calorie-free drinks. Right? All right. So we went over electrogenesis. Do we need to talk about what structured water is? I think we kind of talked about that a little bit, right? Organizing charge. Maybe we should probably talk about this a little bit. I think we talked about this too. Yeah, we kind of went over everything. We kind of went over everything. How muscle is basically an electric generator. Muscles are electric power generators. And when you exercise, what is happening? When you exercise, you focus on a specific set, right? And it's all oxygen based. It's all electricity based, right? So by the end of this course, I want you to be able to, again, see fat loss in the way that it actually is. You don't burn fat. You create electricity. You don't burn fat. You create water. You don't burn fat. You produce light, right? That's what you're doing. You're creating electricity and water and light in your cells. You're not creating fire, right? You're not creating fire. That's not a thing, right? I know you're like, wait a minute, but isn't the sun a fire? Aren't the stars fire? That's a highly debated conversation. Remember, people loosely use terms euphemistically, but the actual meaning of those terms doesn't always line up. And then when you get into a space like this where you need to be specific, it's sometimes hard for people to step away from the way they've been using a word to the actual meaning of the term, right? So it gets a little bit more nuanced, right? But when we look at the world, obviously there's something missing. When we look at the hundreds of millions of influencers, literally millions, we're probably reaching into the billions now, literally on Earth. We're probably going to be reaching, if we haven't yet reached 1 billion health influencers, we're on our way. Where you literally have 1 billion people teaching you how to quote unquote burn fat. And there's no such as thing as burning fat. There's no such thing as that. That's why it's such a great business, because the thing that they're selling you doesn't exist. So you'll never get it. Get it? The thing they're selling you doesn't exist, so you'll never achieve it, not in a meaningful way, until you get so frustrated that you just cheat and then you join the ranks. Like once you get the steroids or the drugs or the Ozempic or whatever it is that you, now, you know, you get the plastic surgery. Now you got the body that you wanted. Now you could become an influencer with us. Now you got the secret. The secret is she bought those abs and that butt. The secret is he bought that body, right? And we don't look at people that use steroids as purchasing their body, but it's a fact. Because anabolic hormones is literally what determines how much muscle you can carry. So this is why when people go off the steroids, think about this. When people using steroids, they will argue you down to the ground. Oh, steroids doesn't build muscle because even if I take these steroids, if I don't exercise, blah, 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 blah. When they get to the other side and they stop taking the steroids, the muscle comes down. Why? Because you can only carry as much muscle. In fact, I mentioned this yesterday. See, I erased the whole board for this, so you know this is important. These are your macros. These are your macros. According to science, these are the most important things that you eat, broken down into 3 categories: carbohydrates, fats, protein, right? All right. Carbs, fats, protein. Well, your body doesn't see it the same way because your body stores these 2 things Malcolm X style, by any means necessary, right? And these are interchangeable, right? This is kind of interchangeable too, right? Which also is problematic for the American population, right? But your body stores sugar as fat. Stores sugar as fat. So your body's going to store this no matter what, sugar and fat, right? Because this is your photosynthesis. We don't have the ability to do photosynthesis. So we have to store up as much photosynthetic material as possible because we live off the sun. The plants have the ability to do photosynthesis. They have chlorophyll. We don't. Melanin doesn't do photosynthesis. Melanin is photovoltaic. So because your cells convert electricity into water and water into electricity, melanin, your pigment, is designed to interface with that process. Melanin is the interface between water and electricity. That's what melanin's about. Hemoglobin is about carrying electricity around, moving electricity around. So you have pigments in your body designed to do the things with subatomic particles that your life form requires. We don't have chlorophyll, right? We can eat chlorophyll, we can store chlorophyll temporarily, but we don't have chlorophyll. Our body doesn't make chlorophyll, right? Chlorophyll does the thing with the sun. Chlorophyll does the thing with the stars, right? It captures the sun and turns it into a thing we can eat, right? So we have to store up that photosynthetic material, carbohydrates, right? That's how we store hydrogen for energy, right? And what we don't convert, we package as fat for later on, but we're not letting it go. We're not going to let it get out of our body. We're going to store it up for later, right? Now, protein. This is where the magic comes in. This is where sweat equity comes in, right? Because this has to be earned. You have to earn the right to store protein. You don't just have the ability to store protein. You have to earn the right to store protein. It is something you have to work for and you earn it. And you get paid in the ability to store protein literally in equivalent to how much you work. If we learn these principles, it'll be easy to maintain your weight. It'll be so easy that you'll have my problem. You'll probably get lazy and fat because you know you can get yourself back to where you need to be inside 3 to 6 months, you know, because you already know how to turn it on and turn it off. All right. But this right here is sweat equity. Your ability to store protein, period. Right? Now think about this. We're not photosynthetic. We don't do photosynthesis. We have to use our muscles and our senses, right? We got to use our muscles and our senses to get these carbohydrates, right? We have to use our muscles and senses, especially if we want to capture an animal and eat another animal. That requires much more muscles and senses, right? Because the animals can move. Plants are kind of stationary. They stuck wherever they at, right? Plants can move. I mean, animals can move. Animals can fight back. Protein different, right? Protein, you are designed, right? Now think about this, because this is the reason why your reward system in your brain, your addiction system in your brain, right? The melanin system, right? The neuromelanin system, the dopaminergic neuromelanin system, the dopaminergic norepinephrine system in your brain that controls reward, addiction, and repetitive behaviors, primarily food, sex, sleep, stuff like that, right? This is why that's there, right? Because the most important thing to repeat is how you going to eat, right? How you going to eat? How you going to feed yourself? How you going to take care of your, So we form repetitive habits usually, right? Once we figure out a way to eat, like if we hunt foxes, because we live in a place where there's a lot of foxes, we hunt foxes. That becomes repetitious. We do that every day, every few days to match what we need to eat, feed the family, whatever. If we fishermen, we go out, we create patterns around this. Fast forward to the modern time, we have jobs, right? So we go punch a clock somewhere 5 days a week, 9 to 5, whatever, right? You get it. Repetitive work patterns become your repetitive exercises, whatever you're doing. Now, our repetitive work patterns mostly involve us sitting down, whether we're a truck driver, a teacher, we're police officers. Police officers are not chasing criminals all day. For the most part, police officers sit in their car, right? So when you see muscular police officers, it's because they have gym memberships, right? Even the ones in the hood spend more time in their car than they do actually chasing anybody down, right? So your ability to store protein is a reflection of how much movement you're doing, period. How much movement you're doing. When you increase the amount of daily movement, your body will increase the amount of protein it stores. When you don't move that much, your body will not store that much protein. Stored protein is what we call muscle. That's how your body stores protein. It stores protein as muscle. Stored protein is muscle. Muscle is a reflection of your movement. How does that work? Because your movement triggers your melanin system. Your movement triggers your melanin system, right? From your peripheral melanin system to the melanin in your heart, right? Because you have melanocytes all throughout your body, right? Which determines your pigment or lack of pigment, right? You still have pheomelanin, whatever. But then you have melanocytes in your organs, primarily in your heart, cardiac melanocytes, right? And then you also have your neurons in your brain. Everybody, right? Because we have neuromelanin. So this network of melanin and melanated cells is what controls your body's ability to build muscle. It's also what controls your body's ability to break down sugars and fats. That's why we have melanin stimulating hormone, and then we have melanin concentrating hormone, right? Melanin stimulating hormone is the exercise side. Melanin stimulating hormone is the exercise side. So melanin stimulating hormone is being pumped out when you're exercising, when you're earning the protein, when you're earning the muscle. That's when melanin stimulating hormone is being pumped out through your body. So when you get what's called the runner's high, right? Or you start, you lifting weights, and, first you feel a little groggy, but then once you get into the rhythm, you get into that zone, or you're doing your push-ups, and that first set feel crazy. You know what I'm saying? You could barely hit a little 25. You barely hit 20 push-ups that first set. Then you get up and you hold up now. And then you get down. Now you got a nice little clean little 40, 50 piece. Well, it's because, like, euphemistically, we say we get the juices flowing. Or if you're in an athletic setting, they say, oh, well, you had to warm up the muscles. But what you're actually doing biochemically is releasing a substance called pro-opiomelanocortin, or POMC. And in that substance, you have melanin stimulating hormone, you have endorphins, which is the thing that's making you feel good, right? Because literally those are opioids, right? So you're releasing your own heroin. Yeah, your body gets you high as a reward for exercising. Yeah, God rewards you with heroin for exercising. That's how much God wants you to exercise. Like, get high. Whoop. You're not designed to get high based on using external drugs. You're designed to get high. Your brain releases opioids and cannabinoids from exercise. So a part of the POMC molecule is endorphins, melanin stimulating hormone, and then you have something else called lipotropin, right? So lipotropin is melanin stimulating hormone cousin, right? Endorphins is melanin stimulating hormone cousin, right? And when you exercise and you release POMC, that lipotropin breaks up the fats. It breaks up the fats so that the melanin stimulating hormone can help your muscles to turn it into energy. That's what the POMC is actually for. POMC is to help this process. POMC is anabolic. Melanin is anabolic. Melanin is anabolic. Your body's melanin system is the anabolic system. Okay. So POMC, lipotropin, melanin stimulating hormone for energy metabolism. Remember, your body's pigment is the interface between electricity and water, right? So the melanin stimulating hormone is to stimulate electrogenesis and aquagenesis, the production of electricity and water. That's what the melanin part is in there for. The lipotropin part is in there to break the fats down so your body has something to make electricity and water out of. And the endorphins part is so that as you're creating hypertrophy, right? As you're damaging the tissues, as you're putting shock on your bones and your tendons and ligaments, instead of it feeling painful, it feels good. If it feels good, right, it becomes an addictive behavior that you repeat. And if you repeat this behavior, Well, you have health, you have longevity, you have spiritual wealth, right? Spiritual wealth is peace of mind and a healthy body. You can only get peace of mind in a healthy body. Now, you need more things to have peace of mind than a healthy body, but it doesn't matter what you have. If you don't have a healthy body, you cannot have a peace of mind. Get it? You need a healthy body to have peace of mind, but having a healthy body is not the end of peace of mind, right? Because you can be healthy as you want. If you can't pay the rent or your house living arrangement is unstable, you're not going to have peace of mind. But if you're a bazillionaire and you own Earth, but your heart is getting ready to, you know what I'm saying? You got cancer, terminal, like you're not going to have peace of mind, right? So I just want you to understand this whole thing here, because this is not anywhere. It's not on any guru's platform or page. None of the 900 million fat burning health influencers going to teach you this, because they don't know it. They got to come here and learn it, which is the reason why I'm teaching you guys, so that you can go out into the world and usher in the next phase of health. Usher in the next phase of health. Become the next millionaires and billionaires because you healed 1,000, 10,000, 50,000 people. Make a name for yourself. Leave a legacy of healing. Now, if you don't believe that you could do it, then you can't do it. But it's somebody that's watching this video that understands. There's people that know less than 1% of what we just taught in this one class today, and they're making $1 zillion. Say, well, Inky, why you don't go out there? And if I went out there to chase the money, I wouldn't be here to chase you. I'm making a decision to chase you instead of the money, so that you can go out and chase the money. Yeah. Because every person that you impact is what's going to spread the message, what's going to add sanity to our insane society. We have to do that one person at a time. One person at a time. It's not something we can do. We're not getting ready to drop, we're not going to be able to drop this in the water and then everybody just wake up tomorrow and, is lit. One person at a time, right? So we have to earn the ability for our body to store protein. And that's building trust with our inner intelligence. How do you build trust? Because you constantly produce higher amounts of electricity. And the more electricity you produce in your body, the more your body says, we need more protein. The more electricity, the more protein. Protein stabilizes electricity. That's what the amino acids and the protein is for, to stabilize your structure, right? So you can utilize the energy that you're creating. And the more energy you create, the more your structure becomes unstable. And the more your structure becomes unstable, the more your body is going to look to stabilize it by solidifying it, by adding more protein, packing the protein away. Where does the protein get packed away? In the space that you're producing the most power in, right? So that's why our whole objective is to start getting people to look at the electricity they're producing. How much joules did you generate yesterday? How much electricity did you produce yesterday? Right? When me and Chase did our little fake little 2-man marathon and we came back to report, what we did in those 26.2 miles, we broke that down to the actual electricity we generated. Not just the electricity we generated overall, but the electricity we generated per frame. Right? That's the key. That's what cuts through all of the confusion. Right? That's what cuts through all the confusion. You don't need to count the calories per this and that and the other. All you need to know is how much electricity you produce. How much electricity did you produce? The amount of electricity you produce is going to tell you how much water you produce. The amount of electricity and water you produce is going to tell you how much protein your body can store and turn that into muscle. Because what happens is if you try to cheat the system, and you say, well, I'm going to just jump to this. Yeah, because I want to build a whole bunch of muscle. And so, yeah, I'm going to just have this steak and this protein, or I'm going to have these Beyond Burgers because these is 20 grams of protein each. So I'm going to just, I'm going to just have me 4 or 5 Beyond Burgers. That's 100 grams of protein. Well, guess what? If you don't do the amount of work to earn the right to store protein, all of the protein your body consumes is going to turn into sugar. It's going to turn into sugar. And that excess sugar is going to be stored as fat. Or it's going to, make your diabetes worse or your blood pressure worse. And so you're going to be thinking, man, I'm in the gym and I'm eating protein. I'm on a high protein diet. What are you doing on a high protein diet? You know how many people I have to ask that? They're like, Ink, I'm trying to get help with this disease or that, and I'm on this medication, and I'm trying to do this, and I'm on a high protein diet, and I'm like, well, why are you on a high protein? How much exercise do you do every day? Oh, well, I go to the gym. I go to the gym at least 2-3 times a week. Yeah, I go to the gym at least 2-3 times a week. I'm taking care of business now, Doc. I'm on this thing. I'm going to the gym 2-3 times a week, and I'm on a high protein diet. I'm like, yo, sometimes I can't help but bust out laughing. I got to get that under control. I'm working on me. But sometimes I can't help but bust out laughing. That's why it's a lot safer for me to text. As I still got to do a lot of work on me as a person. It's a lot safer for me to text. Because I just bust out laughing sometimes. People don't, they may take that the wrong way. Yeah, I'm on a high protein. I'm like, who told you to do that? Well, I seen on the internet, this guy, yeah, because he had lost 100 pounds or he used to have diabetes and he said he was on a high protein. I'm going to need you to relax with what you've seen on the internet. We see alien spaceships on the internet too. Like, you got to relax. There's a lot on the internet. You do not belong on a high protein diet. Y'all keep watching bodybuilders that's taking steroids. Yeah. Them guys is exercising so much times, they don't even have the natural ability to produce the level of testosterone to carry the amount of muscle. So they got to exercise literally around the clock. These guys wake up, they eat to put the protein in, then they go exercise. Then they come home, eat again, more protein. Then they go to sleep so their body could turn the protein into muscle. Then they wake up after their nap and go exercise again, and then eat again, and then sleep so their body could turn what they ate into muscle. Don't miss that part. The sleep, where your body turns protein into stored protein. Where your body turns the eaten protein into stored protein. That happens while you sleep. So they wake up, they eat, exercise, sleep, wake up, eat, exercise, sleep. They working out 2-3 times a day. You talking about you worked out 2-3 times a week. Your diet don't supposed to be the same as that person's diet. Now, maybe when you tell me you working out 2-3 times a week, well, guess what I'm going to tell you? Well, maybe you should have a high protein diet 2-3 times a week. Yeah. Yeah. If you work out 2-3 times a week, you probably need a high protein diet 2-3 times a week. If you start working out every day, then we can start to raise that protein level every day to match what you need to put in there. Otherwise, all that expensive protein is just sugar. You might as well have cupcakes. The cupcakes will taste better and they're more convenient. You can get those Hostess cupcakes. They come 2 in a pack, ready, pure deliciousness, just ready for you to, yeah. You can get you some cupcakes that's already in a package. That's just pure deliciousness, ready for you to just rip right through it. You ain't got to get no whole bunch of vegetables and you done put all this together and you done got $12 agave or, I'm going to get the maple syrup. And you done spent $16 on a bottle of maple. You done put all that together and then you done got $75 protein powder from Amazon. That done turned into sugar and that done turned into fat. Why? Because if you're not, pay attention now, if you're not exercising enough to carry the protein and turn it into muscle, you're not exercising enough to turn all the sugar into electricity and water. So that means the protein is turning into sugar, and because you're not moving enough, the sugar is turning into fat. So all roads lead to Wakanda. Yeah, all that's being turned into fat. And as your body starts to run out of places to store fat, that's when you start to build up the more dangerous types of visceral fat. The fat that's in your mitochondria, in your bones, in your lungs, in your heart. Yeah, because you didn't put fat is everywhere already. So now you got to squeeze other places because you're going crazy. I want y'all to get this. Oh my goodness, let's go with the super chat. Woo! Let's go with the super chats. That's what I'm talking about. The super chat is like YouTube vitamins. That's like an energy drink. That's like an espresso. When you get the super chat, that's like an espresso. You get a boost of yo, the super chat is like carbohydrates when you're doing a live stream. All right? But I want you to get this concept. This is sweat equity. You have to invest in yourself in a way that you can't cheat in order to store protein. Period. Otherwise, the protein, you're only fooling yourself. You can't trick God. No matter how smart you get, you cannot. What Whack 100 said? What Whack 100 say? Whack 100 is saying, nobody's bigger than the program. Nobody's bigger than the program. And Whack 100 might need to come see me because he's just getting fatter and fatter. But nobody's bigger than the program. So you can't trick that. You going on a high protein diet, spending all that money on protein powders and, Wagyu beef and bison and folks going crazy out there on protein. All that protein is turning into sugar and fat because you're not doing enough work. You're not doing enough work to earn the ability to turn that protein into muscle. So you're turning your protein into sugar and storing that for later as fat. And guess what? Fat doesn't turn back into protein. Fat turns back into sugar, but it doesn't turn back into protein. So when you convert protein into sugar, that is a one-way conversion. That doesn't go backwards. The way you convert sugar into fat and then back into sugar, there is no protein back to, it's none of that. You can convert protein back and forth to muscle, sure. You can convert edible protein into muscle. And then that muscle can break down and go back into protein or amino acids. But once you turn those amino acids into sugar, that is it. That's done. So even when it comes to the diet part, you know, with the managing macros, this is secondary. This is not as important as how much electricity you generate in your body. You have to raise the amount of electricity, and it happens in levels. Because social media is so competitive and everybody's trying to compete on social media for views and likes, the information gets lost. What do I mean by that? People want to say the thing that stands out the most, and nobody deals with the truth because the truth is basic. So everybody believes that the basics has already been covered. So everybody wants to say the craziest thing ever. The craziest thing to get the clicks. Well, now that we've gone through 20 years of crazy clicks, nobody knows the actual truth anymore. So now you can stand out with just saying the truth. Nobody knows the truth anymore. Right? We live in the world of society being insane. Right? And so before we get to the macros, it's just like, right? Forget about this. It's life. Before we had a plant or a cell on Earth, we had electromagnetism. Life goes that way too. Electromagnetism precedes life. Electricity, magnetism, and light precede any things. Persons, places, and things come secondary to electricity, magnetism, and light. Your body works the same way. So you have to get the electricity up by any means necessary, right? This is why I say when you're doing the 60 and 60, when you're doing the push-ups, your form doesn't matter. Because people competing on social media, in order to boost themselves up, they critique others, right? So they want to go, oh, you're not doing those push-ups with the right form. Your arm is too shaky. Your hands is too close. You're doing, you only going halfway down. You only came halfway up. You only did this and that and the other. That's not my goal. My goal is to get you healthy, right? So because my goal is to get you healthy, I know what I'm looking for. And the amount of movements that you make within 60 seconds is how we produce the electricity. Period. So I just need you to get going. Just get any amount of push-ups in as much as you can in 60, whatever type of form. If your body's shaking, because here's the other thing that you learn with experience. When you're a new personal trainer or you're new to training, you may not know this. It may come with time. But form is based on strength. Form is based on strength. Because if you look at any bodybuilder or any calisthenics person, they could be the strongest person in the world. Oh, I could do 75 muscle ups. All right, we'll do 75 muscle ups. Go ahead. Now watch how number 73 and 74 and 75 look. When that person that could do 75 muscle ups gets to the last 3 muscle ups, they're going to be, right? Form is going out the window because they've already got rid of the strength, right? So their first 10, their first 20, if they can do 75, oh, that first half, that first 35 looks textbook. But once they get to the second half, oh yeah, you're starting to see little other movements. You know, you're starting to see little other movements. The muscle imbalance is starting to show themselves. One side their body stronger than the other, and you know, these things start to show themselves in the second half of the routine. And by the time they get to true exhaustion, they're going to lose form because they lost the strength. Well, when you're dealing with a sedentary population, people that's not used to exercising, they're at that same level that a professional is at the end. They at that level at the beginning. A person that can do 60 push-ups, their last 10 push-ups is the same as a person who could only do 10 push-ups. Their last 10 is the same as somebody else's first 10. So if a person could only do 8, 9, 10 push-ups, well, they shaky out the gate. The same way you shaky when it gets to that last 10 and you could barely, yeah. So form is not important. I don't care about the form. Just get going. Don't get discouraged or let nobody discourage you about your form. Oh, you didn't go this way, that way. You didn't go all the way up. You did a squat, but your butt didn't touch your ankles. Listen, people of all different ages, some people hips and knees ain't even, listen, if you just squat this much, work on this. This is a squat. This is good. If this is as far as your knees can go, this is a squat. You right here with it. And you right here with it for an hour. I mean, a full minute, 60 seconds, right? And when you do the exercise, here's how your body is dynamic. When you do an exercise, every exercise you do uses certain muscles and joints and tendons and ligaments. The weakest parts of your body are the ones that will feel pain first. Those are the ones you're going to feel first. So those are the ones that you're going to be primarily building. Now, sometimes your tendons and your ligaments and your joints are weaker than your muscles. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. If you keep doing the exercise in a safe way, you keep your consistency up, guess what? Those joints, those tendons, those ligaments will get stronger. So like if you try to do a squat and your knees hurt, so you can only go down right here. That's as far as you can go with your squat. And you do a minute worth of these and your legs don't feel tired, but your knees feel tired. Okay, you worked out your knees. Yeah, you just worked out your knees. When you do your squats, your squats is working on those knees. And guess what's happening? When you feel them working on your knees, guess what you're doing? You're putting pressure on your knees that your knees are not used to getting. So that pressure is piezoelectrically producing electricity. That electricity is not only telling the body, hey, we need to build more collagen in the knees. It's also telling your body, we need more synovial fluid. The synovial fluid is the lubricant that's going to lubricate your knees, right? Because now you're telling your body, hey, we're getting ready to use these a little bit more. So we want to dust these on off. Yeah, we're going to dust these on off. Yeah, like if you got a bookshelf and you got some books that you haven't read in a while, and then all of a sudden you go up there and you grab that book, you got to blow the dust off that thing and clean that book off because so you got to do that with the knees. It might take you a few months to get the dust off, Yeah. So that's what you're doing. And then pretty soon your squat right here, you be then moved down here one time. Like, hold up. You know what I'm saying? Now you can do, you doing 10 of these. Yeah, you got a little more flexibility. Now you're moving deeper into the squat. You feeling a little more quads, right? Your quads getting a little more, and you might be able to do these for 3 months, right? And then one day you're going to be like, you're going to be like, hold up now. Yeah, then before you know, you down here with the squat. And now knees is working, quads is working, and you done felt a little butt cheeks. Yeah, your butt cheeks. Your butt cheeks is, yeah, your butt cheeks is, you done felt a little tension. Now you done got a little gluteus happening. You're like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah. And by the time you get to 10, you still feel like you can keep on going. Now you done did 15. Now you done did 20. But you did it safely and you took your time. You did it safely and you took your time. And the more you exercised, the more slowly you build up the protein. That's where the stability I'm talking about comes in, right? That's the stability, because your body, those muscles put pressure on tendons and ligaments, and the tendons and ligaments put pressure on the bones, and that translates to pressure at the joint. So the joint has to be strong enough to deal with all of the pressure, the electricity, the energy that you're applying, right? That's why it has to be earned, right? That's why it has to be earned. Correctamundo. That is correct. Now, within reason, right? Within reason, we want to allow our body time to do this. Turn protein into muscle. So we want to make sure that on those days we have a high amount of exercise, and a high amount of exercise is only a high amount of exercise to you. Because if you haven't been exercising before, 10 minutes of exercise feels like a lifetime. Your heart pumping all crazy, parts of your body hurting, right? And you ain't did nothing but 10 minutes. But for somebody who's been exercising a long time, 10 minutes ain't nothing, right? So whatever is to you, don't be going by somebody else's time schedule. Oh, well, I seen, Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan said, Joe Rogan is a martial artist for like 30 years now. Like, you can't go along with Joe Rogan talking about. Yeah, Joe Rogan got like 27 black belts. Joe Rogan will kill somebody with his bare hands. I don't even know what Liver King was thinking. Liver King was trying to commit suicide on the live stream. He was trying to go super viral. Because Liver King, it don't matter how much muscles Liver King got. If Joe Rogan is able to get 3 fingers onto Liver King is dead. Yeah, Joe Rogan has been practicing killing people for at least 30 to 40 years with his hands. Trust me, I've taken enough jiu-jitsu classes to know. Joe Rogan would have destroyed the Liver King. Period. That would have been the worst thing the Liver King could have did. Them people that stopped Liver King from attacking Joe Rogan saved Liver King's life. Period. I don't know what Joe Rogan has been weapons training, or I don't know none of that. But in hand-to-hand combat, if Joe Rogan would have laid his hand on Liver King, I would say within 45 seconds of Joe Rogan getting one hand on Liver King's body, Liver King would be unconscious. If somebody doesn't get Joe Rogan off of Liver King, within 45 seconds after that 45 seconds, Liver King would have been dead. Period. But yeah, so the pain and what's high amount of protein and high amount of exercise and all that's personal to each one of us. We know what we're doing in our life, right? We know what we're doing. You know what I'm saying? If 60 people is watching this, if I was to say 20 minutes of exercise 3 times a week, half the people on this watching this video would be like, that's nothing. I've been doing that. You're like, that's nothing. That's that. I warm up. Yeah, I work out 5 days a week and I spend 30 minutes warming up on the treadmill. Like, but then there's another group of people that's going to be like, man, 20 minutes 3 times a week. I don't even have a schedule. I don't even know how to fit that in. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's because it's everybody. We all different places with it. So that's the other thing, is you got to be able to listen to your body. And you got to learn all this different information and all this science so that when we're listening to our body, it doesn't sound like the Charlie Brown teacher. Because people will say that. Oh, you got to listen to your body. Yeah, but if you don't know the languages, it's about 4 or 5 languages your body speaks. You got to learn anatomy, physiology, biochemistry. If you don't know none of the languages that your body communicates in, when you listen to your body, it's you don't know what your body's saying. Your body's saying it's thirsty and you're going to get a cheeseburger. You don't know what your body's saying to you. Your body's like, yo, we need a glass of water. And you went and got you a frosty tropical smoothie blast. 800 calories of pure sugar. Hey, your body said you need some water and you went and got a Pepsi and an espresso. You don't know what your body is saying. So we got to learn the language of our body so that when we listen to our body, we know what our body is saying. And sometimes, because we want to exercise in regular intervals, because everybody on the internet is telling us we need to schedule our exercise and we need to write it down. So on Monday and Wednesday, we doing back and chest. And on Tuesday, we doing legs. And then on Thursday, we doing arms and this. Friday is the rest day. And then on Saturday, we doing the cardio. Well, what if you wrote that whole schedule out and you woke up on Wednesday and your body is like, nah, bro, we should probably chill. Now, you done turned on to David Goggins, and David Goggins said, well, I was running till my legs was broken, and doo-doo was coming down the back of I was peeing and doo-dooing on myself with blood coming. Now, you done actually pulled the muscle. You done sprained the muscle. You done sprained your ankle, pulled the muscle. Now you out of work for half a week and you angry with Dr. Inky or, whoever, because you done went too crazy. No, you need to be able to learn how to listen to your body. So if your body is saying we're not exercising today, you know the difference between we need to chill and we being lazy. There's a difference between being lazy and just not wanting to do anything versus I've worked already so hard, like we need an extra recovery day. Because one of the things about this whole process is if you're not used to building muscle, you're not used to sleeping. You're not used to active resting. Active resting is the sleep that you earn from exercise. It's not the same as you done binge watch Netflix after you got off work. You done binge watch Netflix. You done had you a little snack, a little, Kit Kats, a little Oreos, a little ice cream. Your conscience got the best of you, so you got carb-free ice cream, whatever. And now you done ate whatever you wanted to eat and you done dozed off, or you done had sex, got high, dozed off. Like that's not the same type of sleep as you done trained hard for an hour, 2 hours. You done ran 15 miles. That's a different, them is different types of sleep. Yeah, those is totally different types of sleep. Your glutathione levels is totally different. And glutathione, along with the pigment, your neuromelanin, Glutathione and neuromelanin is what determines the REM sleep activity and the sirtuin activity that heals up your body when you're sleeping. So those totally different types of sleep. So until you get used to the activity, you don't get used to the recovery. So recovery is something you got to learn too. You got to learn that from the activity. So you got to have the mind to push yourself forward and fight the addiction, the laziness and all that. But you also got to pay attention to, your body parts. And so for that, you need to learn the language of anatomy and physiology. You need to learn, hey, tendons and ligaments don't heal as fast as muscles do. So my muscles will feel sore on Monday and I'm ready to go again Tuesday, Wednesday. My knees might be sore on Monday, but I might not be ready to go on them knees again till Thursday, Friday, Sunday night. Yeah, it might take me 5, 6, 7 days to get these knees back to, So, you might have to switch it up. But that's the beauty. You got a whole entire body that need exercise. Yeah. So if your knees is crazy, hey, switch it up. Let's get some abs exercises going on. We can never do enough abs exercises, Abs always need more work, right? Abs always need more work. Calves always need more work. You can always count on your abs and your calves to get you exercise. And when all else fails, you can walk. Yeah. Oh, normally I'm supposed to do 2 hours of exercise. Like say you say Thursday, you got an hour worth of back scheduled or chest or whatever, but for whatever reason, you're like, nah, I don't think I should do nothing today. Well, that hour that you would have did the other exercise, whatever that is, push-ups, pull-ups, bench press, jump rope, swim, whatever, just go walk. Yeah. Go do some regular walking or just go in the pool and walk around in the pool. Still get yourself some extra movement. Don't allow yourself to go from high level electricity to zero, right? Still produce some electricity. Get your electrogenesis on just another type of way. You know what I'm saying? Woo! Let's go! Super chat crazy. Working out with Natty. Let's go. That's what I'm talking about. Working out with Natty. That's a super chat. That's a super chat. When you get a super chat from a person that you don't normally see in your chat, that's a super chat. All right. Let's make sure we hit everything. So I think we talked a lot about motion, fasting, oxygen, pigment, proton gradients, membrane potential, electric fields across membranes. Don't let this stuff here get complicated. Don't let this stuff scare you. It's not that deep. Just know, charged particles moving around is all that's referring to. It's just talking about the behavior of charged particles moving around. So when you're talking about the mitochondria, remember that's what and we've talked about it quite a bit. So I just want to remind you, right? But think of each, right? The mitochondria got 5 complexes or cytochromes, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 through 4 all pretty much work like this. Electrons go that way. Protons go that way. This is how your mitochondria works. All right? Because protons follow electrons. Protons are stalkers. Yeah, protons are stalkers. Think of protons as stalkers. Protons are always stalking the electrons. The electrons always is just trying to do, I'm just trying to do me. You know, I'm just trying to do me. I'm just trying to do my thing out here. You know what I'm saying? Move around freely. Protons are stalkers. Okay, so I don't know if y'all been watching the Iceman videos with Drake. Proton is Pinocchio chasing Drake. So when the electron goes, man, these tops is crazy. When the electron is brought, let's say, for instance, the electron comes from a carbohydrate, right? So NAD brings an electron here, right? You got an electron here. The attraction of that electron is going to make a proton go from here to out here. Because it's going to try to catch this electron, but that electron is going to move too fast. So when the electron is here, the proton senses the electron and tries to come here to meet the electron and come back together. Because when the proton and the electron come together, boop, you got hydrogen, right? So they always trying to do that. The pigments, right? The pigments, that's what these are made out of, pigment. The pigment is not allowing that to happen. The pigment is going to keep that electron moving before the proton can bond with it. So by the time the proton tries to bond with this electron, the electron already gone. Boop. So the proton just moves from here to here. From this group of water to this group of water. Now, as the electrons continue to move through, you got a whole bunch of protons move from down here up here. So now you got a whole bunch of protons up here. Right? You got a whole bunch of these boxes, boop, 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 boop. And then you get to number 5. Right? At cytochrome number 5, now 1 through 4 all work the same. This is your electron transport chain. Number 1, 2, 3, and 4 all work the same. Electrons are moving through and protons are stalking electrons, but they can't catch them. So they just move from out here to out here. Now, when you get to number 5, all of these frustrated protons is mad. They didn't catch no electrons. So now they just ready to go back to the house. Yeah, they just ready to go back to the house and start again. They want another opportunity to catch that electron. Like when we watch Bugs Bunny, right? They never could catch Bugs Bunny, right? Elmer Fudd never gets to catch the Roadrunner, right? The proton never catches the electron. The way that these protons come back down here to the house where they live at is they have to go through these holes. They have to go through these holes in cytochrome number 5. And as they go through the hole, that causes this thing here to spin. And when this thing is spinning, that's how it recycles ATP. That's how it recycles ATP. So that's the process of how these electrons, this flow of electricity, right, turns this turbine to produce ATP. Notice nowhere in here is fire being produced. There's no fire, there's no combustion, there's no smoke, there's no ash, Nothing is on fire inside the mitochondria. There's no fire in there. There's no fire. That doesn't exist. So since there's no fire, there's no burning sugar or burning fat. It's just converting carbohydrates or converting sugar into electricity, or converting fats to fatty acids, and then those fatty acids into electricity. And how do you do that? Because the fats, again, are made the same way as the carbohydrate. Right? So mind you, that electron movement and proton movement is all them fancy formulas is talking about. Right? So they talking about membrane voltage and this, that. All of that is just being able to calculate or quantify the activity of electricity in a specific space, right? So they want to be able to calculate the potential of mitochondria, right? So, okay, well, a person this size at this weight with this level of activity, here's the potential, but don't get intimidated by that, right? Actually, I think that's good. I don't think we need to go further. So I was about to I was about to keep going, but I think we got it. I think we got it. Sometimes too much is too much. Okay. No, we do need to go into something else. We still got a lot of information to cover today. Not a lot. There's a lot of stuff we already discussed. And some of this stuff is just a discussion. I don't need to be as animated and colorful with the long descriptions, right? But we got to discuss these guys. Opsins. We have to discuss opsins, right? Up till now, exercise people, right? Exercise people tend to learn from like doctors to sound more professional, or when they get a certification as a personal trainer, like they're learning what's in the NASM textbook or whatever organization they get certified through. But the people that put their textbooks through are usually, like a medical doctor or somebody who went for physiology in college. And so it's, again, the uninformed learning from the misinformed, right? So for a long time, people who have been, pigment activists, we'll phrase it that way, pigment activists, what we were saying was falling on deaf ears, right? Because the religion of science says this, and this is a fact. And you have to say what you're saying in this language in order for it to be qualified as a fact. Well, that's a nomenclature. That's nomenclature. You have to dress your idea up in a certain type of outfit in order for, like, if you go to work, you got to wear a suit and tie to be respectable. Or for a long time, you couldn't wear braids at an actual job. In order to get a job, you had to cut your hair, right? Because the quality of a person could be determined by a hairstyle. Like, very similar, right? So pigment activist was discarded because there was no real scientific underpinning to discuss the effect that light had on muscle, right? Even though if you go back to the old school bodybuilders, they all knew that the sun had an effect on their muscles. See, now we could break it down in a variety of ways, and melanin is anabolic. Oh, I got it. And we the first ones. They want to take my flow and run with it. That's cool. I was the first one with it, right? Original. Like, so back in the days, though, the bodybuilders knew that the sun helped them build their muscle. Even if you go to the very first Pumping Iron video with Arnold Schwarzenegger and them, they was explaining how they'd go in the gym and work out, but then they'd go out onto the beach for recovery because the sun made their muscles bigger. They didn't even know why. They just knew it was a thing. They knew it was the actual, they're experiencing it. So they don't have scientific terms to dress their experience in. So because they didn't have the scientific terms to dress their experience in, their experience was discarded. Like when Dr. Sebi discovered fats in the muscles causing obesity and diabetes in the 70s, he didn't have the words to express what he knew was happening. So he just says mucus in the cells. Now people say, oh, mucus is not in the muscle cell. He didn't know what he was talking about. Yeah, he used a different word, but his experience was valid because when he started to help people clean out the cells, they got healthy again. Right? So back when you go back to bodybuilders, they knew going on the beach grew the muscle. They didn't know the science behind it. Right? And then even as they learn some stuff, now we have a whole nother level of perspective, and it's this. Right? So until very recently in the world of science, opsins was only thought to exist inside your eyes, right? Opsins are the pigments in your eyes, right? Rods and cones. Rods and cones are opsins, right? We all learn about rods and cones in our eye, right? But that's rhodopsin and photopsin. Those are opsins, right? You got a bunch of different opsins. Now we know there's more opsins, right? But initially, we only knew rods and cones, and we thought that these opsins was only in your eye. Now we know different people have different amounts of opsins. The same way we know different people have different amounts of melanin, different types of melanin, all throughout their body, where melanin at one time was only thought to be in the skin. Then they found out it's not only in the skin, but you got it in your brain. As time goes on, now we know melanin's everywhere. We know that melanin is regulating your heart, cardiac melanocytes. Same thing now with opsins. Now we find out that opsins are all throughout the body. They're not just in the eyes, right? Well, opsins are specialists, like all pigments, right? All pigments are specialists, like chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is a photosynthesis specialist. Chlorophyll pigments is designed to turn hydrogen into carbohydrates. That's what chlorophyll does. Hydrates carbons, period. You have different types of chlorophylls because we have different types of environments. So the different types of chlorophyll is so that different types of plants can hydrate carbon in different environments. So you have some algae that sits on top of the ocean. They have one type of chlorophyll. Why? Because they have a different type of sun and atmosphere exposure to the algae that lives deep inside the water. The algae that's deep inside the water, they're getting different types of light and different types of oxygen levels and all that. So they need a different type of chlorophyll that can still do the same job, just with different resources, right? So that's why there's different types of chlorophyll, because you got different types of plants, different types of algae, and they live in different type of places with different amount of sunlight, different amount of oxygen, different density of oxygen, right? Because above water and submerged in water, two totally different Opsins, same thing. Opsins is working with light. Opsins work with photons, right? That's what opsins do. Opsins turn photons into electric signals. Melanins primarily working with electricity, right? Melanins can convert electricity into a variety of different things, right? Primarily interface between water and electricity. Opsins usually work as an interface between light and melanins, or light and neurons, right? Light and melanin, or light and neurons. So now, what do we find out? We find out in a very scientific sense now that the bodybuilders was definitely onto something, and so was the pigment activists, right? The pigment activists and the bodybuilders was onto something, because guess what? There's opsins inside your muscles. There's opsins inside your muscles. So your muscles are actively converting light into electricity and stimulating growth as well. Now, the question is, where is the light coming from? That's the real question. That's where it gets spooky. That's where the debates are at, and blah, blah, blah. And we know that there's certain types of light that can penetrate the skin. So, you have that. But then we know that there's internal light, chemiluminescence, light that's being produced by all the electrical activity from the mitochondria and the membrane and this, that, and the other. All that other stuff is producing light as well, right? Which is the reason why melatonin is so important, right? Melatonin is important because melatonin is the antifreeze. It's the coolant. You know what I'm saying? Melatonin is the thing. That's why infrared light, it does stuff in your body, but it also stimulates melatonin from the mitochondria, because infrared, it's light, but it's heat. So the melatonin comes to make sure there's no free radical production, because again, your body's not making fire. Your body's making water, and your body has melatonin to make sure there's no fire. There's no heat. Heat's neutralized quickly by water and melatonin and pigments and a variety of things that make sure there's no heat. There's no excess heat being produced. All right. But the fact that we have opsins inside the muscles, that says all we need to know for now, right? Just knowing what an opsin is and knowing the location changes the whole landscape of biology, biochemistry, anatomy, everything. Pigment. Pigment is anabolic. Melanin is anabolic. The melanin system, the pigment system, is anabolic. This is why we focus the diet not on whether people eat meat or whether people eat vegan, because you have unhealthy meat eaters and healthy meat eaters. You have unhealthy vegans and you have healthy vegans. Guess what? The healthy meat eaters and the healthy vegans have one thing in common: pigment and fiber. The unhealthy vegans and the unhealthy meat eaters also have something in common. They're not getting enough pigment and fiber in their diet. So what's the important thing to focus on for health? Pigment and fiber. Now, you might hear pigment disguised as a lot of other words, right? Antioxidants, polyphenols, you hear those Oh, yeah. Well, this is a high concentration of polyphenols. Oh, yeah. Pigments. Well, it's polyphenols because, yeah, okay. We got you. Pigment. Yeah. Now, antioxidants can be other things, but pigments are also classified as antioxidants. So you also have like minerals or vitamins or things that can be classified as antioxidants. Anything that can neutralize a free radical could be classified technically as an antioxidant. But pigments is right up in there. All right. Pigments is up in there. Why that's important is because it's particularly vitamin A that feeds these guys. Vitamin A, in fact, vitamin A is the pigment vitamin. That's what vitamin A is doing. Vitamin A is in your body making pigments, including melanin. Including melanin. It's vitamin A that's making it. Vitamin A. That's why we have a whole book on vitamin A. All right? Where are those books? The orthorexia book and the autodidact book. If you don't have those books, you might want to get those books. The orthorexia book and the autodidact book. Right? We talk about pigments very heavily in those books. Right? And vitamin A, including the challenge that we started for a little while, right? Trying to get 10K a day of vitamin A. You know, that was a little bar. 10K a day vitamin A, right? A variety of vitamin A's, because you got different types of beta carotenes, and you know, the beta carotenes got to be activated and turned into retinols and retinoic acid, and it gets crazy from there. But as long as you get them in, your body will do the rest of the magic, right? But opsins, right? A whole nother class of pigments that have to do with this quantum mechanics, right? Quantum mechanics. Pigment handles quantum mechanics in your body. All of the subatomic particle activity is handled by pigments. So you got opsins. You got melanin, and then you got the globins, right? You got opsins, melanins, and globins. And your muscles is particularly made up of opsins and globins. Opsins and globins do most of the magic inside your muscle. What do globins do? Globins deal with magnetism primarily. So globins are magnetic pigments, right? Now, if you go try to look up that, you're probably not going to find that like that, because I like to simplify things. That's a gift that I get from all these gray hairs. From having a zillion children, you learn how to say things repetitive 1,000 times. Because children, you know, gotta love them, right? But then you learn how to simplify things, right? So globins primarily deal with magnetism. So wherever you have globin activity, that globin activity is going to be based on the iron cycle. So the healthier your iron cycle, the healthier your globins. The healthier your globins, the healthier your iron cycle, right? So you have hemoglobin, right? You have hemoglobin, and then you have the version of specialized hemoglobin that lives in your muscles only, called myoglobin, right? And the myoglobin is more magnetic than the hemoglobin. The myoglobin is more magnetic than the hemoglobin. The hemoglobin's job is to bring the oxygen down and pass off to the myoglobin. The way that happens is because the myoglobin has a stronger magnetic pull to the oxygen than the hemoglobin. So anytime hemoglobin even come close to myoglobin, it snatches the oxygen. Boop. So now it has the oxygen to do whatever it got to do inside the muscle cell with the mitochondria, right? The electrogenesis and the aquagenesis, all that magical cytochrome, this and that and the other, because the hemoglobin and the myoglobin is passing off, right? So oxygen goes from hemoglobin in the blood to myoglobin in the muscles. And then it goes back to hemoglobin again. So oxygen goes from hemoglobin in the blood to myoglobin in the muscle, and then it goes to heme again inside the mitochondria. So you got heme twice. You got the hemoglobin, which is basically big bunch of heme together, right? So you got a bunch of heme in the blood carrying the oxygen to another heme group, big one, right? Inside the muscle. That's the only reason it's called myo. Myo is muscle, but it's the same heme, just stronger inside the muscle. And then from the muscle cell into the mitochondria is another set of heme. That's what the cytochromes is made out of, right? Another set of heme. Right? So that's how oxygen is transferred. And so when you look inside the mitochondria, cytochrome 1, 2, 3 is made out of the same thing as hemoglobin, and it also has iron in there. It has iron in there, and it has sulfur in there. Now, there's a different amount of sulfur in there for everybody. Everybody has a different amount of sulfur in there. So when some people sweat, you can smell the sulfur because that's high activity in their mitochondria. So you could literally smell the sulfur from their mitochondria getting very active, right? But that's all a process of globin, hemoglobin. Opsins focuses on translating the light coming in wherever that light is coming from. So whether that light is coming from activity in the cell or it's coming through the cells, opsins are there to translate that and then pass that off either to melanin or to nerve endings, right? But it's going to translate it and then pass it off so that it could go through the network to the communication system of your body, whatever that information is. Opsin is gathering information from light constantly. That's what opsins are. Opsins are just constant antennas. Constant antennas for, radio waves. Just think of it like that, like the TV set, right? Just constantly looking for information. But that information is what's going to be converted to stimuli, right? For activity of electrogenesis, aquagenesis, right? More electricity, more water. The more electricity, the more water you get, the more protein the muscle will be able to turn into muscle. The more muscle, the more protein you have stored, the more muscle, the higher your body's resting metabolic rate is, meaning the higher amount of electricity those muscles can produce. The more electricity the muscle can produce, the lower amount of fat your body will store, because your body will switch from storing fat to storing muscle. And muscle and fat is Bloods and Crips, not Bloods and Crips like the new version of Bloods and Crips. In 2025, Bloods and Crips is friends. Bloods and Crips is family members. Bloods and Crips live together. They got businesses together. Bloods and Crips is not the same as they used to be, right? So I'm talking about old school Bloods and Crips. When Bloods see Crips or Crips see Bloods, is beef on sight, like the Union versus the South. Union versus the South. That's what fat and muscle tissue is, right? Cowboys and Indians. When cowboys see Indians, it's automatically up. Automatically up, because the Indians is mad. They done stole their property, raped a woman. So when the cowboys see an Indian, immediately the cowboy is scared.
he know he got to kill that Indian immediately because that Indian getting ready to kill him because the Indian is angry. Yeah, two different types of emotion. The Indian is angry, looking for revenge. The cowboy is thinking, man, I wasn't the one that stole your land and raped your woman. I can't let you kill me and my babies. You know what I'm saying? So they don't even speak the same language. So they just, it's up. They got to speak the language of violence. Or somebody has to speak the language of escape. Yeah. That's fat and muscle. Fat and muscle is locked into a never-ending beef. Period. It's on sight. Soon as fat see muscle, muscle see fat, is on sight. One of them is going to kill the other one. Period. One of them is going to kill the other one. And they got weapons. That's where things like adipokines, right? Adipokines or myokines come into play, right? These are molecules that muscles release to fight fat. Fat has molecules it releases to fight muscles. So your fat will help your body to break down your muscle. Your muscle will help your body to break down fat. That's where you come in, because they already got a one-track mind. Muscle cells have a one-track mind. They're out to get the fat cells, period. You don't have to teach them that. You ain't got to train them to do that. When they are born, that's what they into. Fat cells, one-track mind. They got beef with muscle cells when they born. That's what they into. You're the banker. You're the financier, right? You're the person that's getting ready to make a bank loan to the army to see who's going to have food and weapons. Yeah. So you decide from your diet and your lifestyle who you're financing, right? Because the chips, the Doritos, and the milkshake, oh, you definitely financing the fat cells. Your fat cells gonna have all the weapons they need to make sure they producing fake amounts of leptin. Yeah, that whole jack crew, that's all baloney. Leptin is dangerous. Don't let nobody tell you leptin. Oh yeah, well, leptin resistance is causing disease. No. Leptin resistance is not causing disease. Leptin going crazy. Like, remember those videos? Girls going wild. Leptin going wild is causing disease, right? Because what happens is the pharmaceutical companies that have, like the biochemists, let me not even say big pharma, the biochemists that work for the food companies, they have hijacked leptin. So leptin used to be a nutrient measurement, right? So when you get a certain amount of nutrients and whatever your body needs, then the leptin tells you, okay, we full, we good. We don't need to keep eating. We got enough vitamins, enough minerals, enough, carbs, fats, protein. Like, we got enough macros, micros, trace, all the stuff, antioxidants. We got enough of the stuff we need. We good. We can go back to building. We got enough material. We can go back to building. That's gone now. With the processed food now, leptin is now in a measurement of amount. And that's where they're coming with this whole calorie push. The calorie push, the calorie count, the calorie push, all of that is more of a way to keep you brainwashed and getting fat. Think about it. The more people count calories, the more obesity and diabetes and metabolic disease goes up. So clearly counting calories and calorie scales and all them things is not helping people get healthier. It's a trick because all calories not the same. 100 grams worth of apple is not the same as 100 grams. 100 calories of an apple is not the same as 100 calories of a cupcake. So why would I count calories? Why would I count calories? That doesn't even make any sense. The moment I believe a calorie is a calorie, calories in, calories out. The more calories if you eat more calories than you burn, then you stored fat. If you burn more calories than that's all gobbledygook now, especially with the understanding of the microbiome. The microbiome totally changes that conversation. That has to all go out of the window. Calories got to go. It's about the quality of the food. That's why leptin is dangerous, because you going, and the Chinese food is the best place to learn from. Chinese food, fast food, I don't know how McDonald's is doing. McDonald's got better biochemists than everybody else. But you get that Chinese food, you get that White Castles, you get some of these different types of fast food. You get full. I'm talking about you eat till you stuffed, like stuff. You sit down and you load up. In like less than an hour, you belch, and it's like you never even ate. The reason why is because you ate a whole bunch of stuff. So based on the size of the amount of food you ate, your body sent that leptin to your brain. And the leptin said, we full, we good, we loaded. So your body was like, okay, cool. Let's sit down and let the itis set in for a minute. Okay, we Gucci. Yeah, what's on TV? Hey, did you see that? Would you see that news? What's that new series with the Chief Ward, the thing with the Hawaii? Yeah, that was crazy. Let's see if the new episode came. Yeah, let's see if BMF. What I want to. Yeah, you was full, so you went to watching TV. 20 minutes later, you looking around. You're like, man, I got to go back into the fridge. You holding the fridge open. You're like, man, did we just we just did $40? What was that? That was crazy, wasn't it? Now you blaming it on the beer. You blaming it on your coffee. You like, oh man, that weed we smoked. You blaming it on all kind of things, except for the fact that leptin is tricked by the biochemist. Your body is not going to be tricked, not for long. See, you ate a whole bunch of food, but it didn't have no nutrients in it. So you was full right up until your body was able to scan through all that stuff. Like you work in a supermarket or something, they checked in the inventory. Yeah, your body was checking in inventory with all that food you put in there. So when you put it in there in the stomach and all that, your body was like, oh, we got a lot of inventory. We just got a whole truck full of inventory. Now we got to scan this stuff and check this in. So as your body checking it in, your body looking for vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, omega-3, potassium, and you ain't scanning in nothing but sugar. You just scanning in sugar, artificial colors, sugar, artificial. So you done put all this stuff into inventory, and you like, hold up. You the supermarket manager. You done got 3 big truck deliveries. You like, hold up. They ain't delivered us nothing but donuts. We can't sell all these donuts. Put all these donuts over there. Calling people up, telling them we need another shipment immediately. We ain't got no toilet tissue, no milk, no meats, no vegetables, no produce, no apples, no, we need a whole bunch. We need a whole new. Tell them to send us some more trucks. We can't do nothing with this here. They sent us 3 trucks full of donuts. That's how that's going. Your body is checking through all that food you just ate, all that General Tso's chicken and syrupy white rice and all. Ain't no nutrients in there. So now you back to eat again. The leptin is tricking you. The melanin concentrating hormone is the manager of inventory. The melanin concentrating hormone is the manager of inventory. Like, hold on. I put this inventory list together. I'm the one that ordered the re-up. Yeah. Melanin concentrating hormones in charge of the re-up. So melanin concentrating hormones, like, hold on. I said we needed at least 10,000 IUs of vitamin D. We didn't get any vitamin D. I said we needed at least 400 micrograms of selenium. We haven't got any selenium. So now melanin concentrating hormone go through the whole inventory list and see ain't nothing there. Now melanin concentrated hormone, the manager, got to go talk to leptin, the supervisor, and go, bruh, why you let the truck drive off after they dropped off all this foolishness? This is not what we ordered, bro. We didn't order no 3 trucks full of donuts. How did you let them? We didn't order this. You let them get away with delivering 3 trucks full of donuts. They charged us for chickens, steaks, Beyond Burgers, toilet tissue, paper towels, dishwashing liquids. You know, we need all the stuff that a supermarket supposed to have. Yeah. You let them get away with delivering us donuts. So that's why you feel full. And then after 20 minutes, you starving again. Because melanin concentrated hormone now got to put in another order. We didn't get nothing. We got to, I don't know. But guess what? Even though your body is hungry and is sending the message to eat again, guess what happened? You still had all them calories. You still had all that sugar. So now that your body has decided that all that sugar is nothing but empty sugar, it's not attached to nutrients, it's not attached to fiber. So the microbiome don't want that processed sugar. They're not touching that. So you can forget about that. That sugar has to all be swept. Your body going to start producing inflammation from all that sugar, and cortisol is going to come, and cortisol is going to sweep all that sugar into the fat cells. Zip. So that way you can eat again, because room got to be made so you can put the real food in. Yeah. So your body has to make room for the real food. Zoop, and you ain't had a chance to digest it yet. You got a long digestive tract, so you ain't going to be able to poop that out to the 10 hours or 15, 20 hours. Yeah, so your cortisol just going to soup that into the fat cells. Zip, all that sugar. Now eat again. And guess what? People repeat that same process hour after hour, day after day, week after week. And it gets confusing because they keep getting bigger and bigger. And you like, boy, you eating the whole house up. But really, the person is starving. The fat person is starving because the nutrients is not getting to their cells. That's what obesity is. Obesity is nutrient resistance. Diabetes is sugar resistance. So in diabetes, the sugar is not getting to the muscle cells. With obesity, the nutrients is not getting there. One of them is based on what you're eating, the obesity. The other one is based on movement. Now you have some hormone stuff, some genetic proclivities, and some obstacles that can make it way more complicated than I'm simplifying it. But if you don't understand the simplification, nothing you do is going to work. This is why they got so many studies that shows people's weight begin to normalize when they just stop eating processed food and start eating regular food. It's not that broccoli is magical or that, whatever, you know what I'm saying? It's not that these foods are magical. It's just that when you eat real food and your body says, I'm full, your body's full of nutrients. When you eat processed food and your body says it's full, that's just a whole bunch of sugary sludge that in a few minutes you're going to eat again and eat again and again, because the blueprint that builds itself has an inventory list of things that it needs in order to build your enzymes, in order to build your filaments, your microtubules, your mitochondria, your muscles, your this, your that, your heart, your lungs, all that takes certain special stuff. And melanin concentrating hormone is the one that comes with the inventory list. Leptin is the lazy supervisor that always gets tricked over and over. Melanin is the young supervisor that's 19 years old, that's high all day. Yeah, melanin is the young supervisor that's high all day because his uncle the one that got him the job. So leptin ain't really The trucks is out there. All right, man. The trucks is out there. He's supposed to go out there and check and make sure what's on the trucks is on there and sign off it. Lipton ain't doing that. Them trucks is there. Okay, yeah, the trucks is there. We full. We good. We got inventory. Then the manager pop up, Melanin concentrate. Huh? Who? What's on them trucks? You getting fired. But then Lipton don't never get fired because his uncle got him the job. You see what I'm saying? This is how your body works. This is why you have structure, right? Back to that word, organization. So when somebody fails, there's a fail safe, and there's another thing and another thing to protect the system, right? You just got to know your body has already made something to make insulin levels go down. Yeah, it's called glucagon. Yeah, it's called glucagon. Your body already has a magical substance it produces to erase blood sugar. It's called glucagon, like get the glucose gone, glucagon. Yeah, your body has that. Why your body's not making enough? Why are you worried about insulin? You need more glucagon, right? What's glucagon? Somebody right now saying, wait, glucagon? Chat GPT, what is glucagon? The reason why Negroes are sick. All right. So I think we cooking. I think we did good for day one. I think we did good for day one. Oh, no. We still got a few more pieces. Okay, we still got a few more pieces, and then we'll be finished. Right? I mean, listen, hold on. I want y'all to understand that in your book, right? It's so much information that it's impossible for me to give you everything that's in the book. So in the book, there's assignments, there's homework, there's studies, there's review. Don't take this like regular YouTube. Like, understand this is a 15-week course with an actual strict curriculum. And what I'm showing you on the screen right here is not in the book. When you look at this, don't think this is the book. This is not the book. These are my notes for myself, so I know what points I want to hit. When you get the book, you're going to read the book and go, wait a minute, this is totally different than what. Yeah. But what's the same is what we're going through. But you also have homework, you have pages to look up in other books, you have assignments, you have work to do. Don't play with the information, because the information is only going to be as valuable as you put the value into it. So just know, when you get your book, I'm sure people just ordered the book yesterday or whatever, so people haven't got the book yet. Right? I know nobody has the book yet because Osborne don't have the book yet. Osborne ordered the book literally like within minutes of the Amazon saying it's for sale. Osborne was like the first person to. So I know nobody has it yet because he ain't got it yet. So it's going to take him 2-3 days. So I know it's going to take everybody else 2-3 days to get the book. When you get the book, though, just know that there's homework and things that. And if you're like, hold up, so why you start the class before we had the book? Blame Tika and blame Peyton. Tika and Peyton was the ones that pumped me up to start the classes up immediately. Yeah, I was going to wait a week or 2 weeks, give people a chance to get. Tika and Peyton specifically. Let's go, Doc. All gas, no brakes. So just know you got more stuff to do after you watch these videos. You still got to hit the books. You still got to study. Right? You still got to hit the books. You still got to study. Okay. So what did I want to talk about before we get out of here? Okay.
couple of things, specifically with opsins, right? Now, when you hear about nitric oxide, and you're starting to hear more and more and more about nitric oxide, right? Nitric oxide is the combination of nitrogen and oxygen, right? Opsins are responsible primarily for or at least for the light-based conversion of nitrogen and oxygen to nitric oxide. It's opsins that are sending those signals. Opsins are sending those signals. So why would that be important in terms of opsins inside a fat cell or a muscle cell? Because remember, it's oxygen in the muscle cell that's allowing the electricity and the water to be created for power, right? So you need nitric oxide to signal to the circulatory system, right? To open up the blood vessels so more blood could get into the muscles. More blood get into the muscles, more oxygen. So that's why when you exercise and you're getting a pump, you're getting a pump because light is activating the opsins. That those activated opsins is creating nitric oxide, and the nitric oxide is opening up the blood vessels so more blood could get into those particular muscles. Similarly, opsins in the fat cells will be doing the same thing, signaling the vessels to open up so more blood can get to the fat cells. So that way, more fat cells gets broken down to fatty acids, right? And then if you look at what's stored inside a fat cell, it'll give you an idea. Think about it. Glucose 6-phosphate. Right? You just look at what's in there. Right? Can y'all see that on the board? Let me see, because I can't even see the screen. Okay, yeah, you can see that. Glucose 6-phosphate. That's how fat is stored, or that's how sugar is stored as fat. Right? So we focus on the sugar stored in there, but we don't pay attention to the fact that the sugar is attached to phosphate. And the phosphate is the thing that our body recycles for light. So they're stored together inside the fat cell. So by getting more blood flow, more oxygen to the muscles, we open up for energy production. But by getting more blood flow and oxygen to the fat cells, we allow the fat cells to empty out so that the muscles have something to turn into electricity and water, right? After they run through the sugar, right? Because sugar burns out quick. When you start exercising, it's phosphocreatine, then it's sugar, then it's fat, all right? So your opsins is turning light into nitric oxide. All right, that's one of the things that your opsins does with light. Also calcium. And then not only calcium, we'll just put calcium down here. Calcium ain't that special. Right? Calcium ain't that special, right? But not only does the opsins stimulate nitric oxide, but the opsins also stimulate this guy, right? And you might not have heard of this guy out here in these streets. PGC1. 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 This is like Sesame Street. I'm saying it so you can say it at home.
PGC1, right? PGC1. PGC1 is the thing that tells your mitochondria to do what? Divide and multiply. Divide and multiply, right? We need more electrical production. We need more water production. We need more mitochondria. The more electricity you produce, not only do you store more protein as muscle, but your cells also store more mitochondria. So somebody who exercises has more mitochondria than somebody who's not exercising. And the more you exercise, not only do you increase the amount of mitochondria you have, but you increase the amount of cytochromes that each mitochondria have to produce electricity and water, right? So you multiply the electricity sites, and then you multiply the mitochondria themselves. That's what this sends a signal for. This is a light-based thing, right? Opsins is triggering nitric oxide, PGC1, and calcium. Calcium is coming in to switch everything on. Once we got the electricity going, now we can switch everything on. Like once you pay the light bill, now you can walk through your house proudly and turn lights on. If you ain't got the money for the light bill coming up, you know you yelling at everybody, turn off that kitchen light. Anybody pay these light bills? Turn off the damn light. You need all that light. You got a few dollars, you ain't worried about the light bill. Go ahead and turn that light on. Read all night if you want. You know what I'm saying? Read all night if you want. Turn that light on. You go ahead and do your thing. You worried about that light bill. You yelling. Turn off them lights. Don't leave that bathroom light on. I don't care if you're scared of the dark. We ain't getting no night lights. Ain't gonna be no lights plugging in all night. Close your eyes. If you're scared of the dark, close your eyes. Go to sleep. Faster you go to sleep, faster you wake up. The sun will be out in the morning. Oh my God, my mom's is wild. I love my moms though. All right. So I think we got some good ideas of everything. Right? I think we got some good ideas of everything. And then obviously with this conversation about light in terms of opsins, right? And the conversation about melanin stimulating hormone and melanin concentrating hormone, even if we don't have a direct conversation about circadian rhythm, I'm giving you another level of insight into your pigment activity and how they work. So at some point, if we start to have deeper conversations, because there's a lot of circadian rhythm conversation on the internet, and they're saying a bunch of nothing. Because people done heard circadian rhythm 1,000 million times and still don't know what melanin concentrating hormone do. They still don't know what lipotropin, like they don't even know what lipotropin is. So it doesn't make sense to hear of circadian rhythm and you don't know the neurotransmitters or the hormones that stimulate it and what their jobs are. Because once you learn what the neurotransmitters do, what the hormones do, then circadian rhythm is just like second nature. You get it. You get it. When you got the light activated, right? When you got light activated, you got a stronger level of calcium flow, which is turning everything on. When the light is activated, you got nitric oxide, so you got a stronger blood flow. When you got the light activated, you got mitochondria ready to divide and split up. So you got more mitochondria to produce more electricity. Just starts making sense, right? It starts making sense. When melanin stimulating hormone is dominating your body, which is primarily in the light, right? Your body is ready to utilize energy. When melanin stimulating hormone starts to go down because you've used up all your energy, you should have been exercising throughout the day. Now, melanin concentrating hormone is coming through with that inventory list. Like, okay, now we done used up. Yeah, we done used up all that vitamin A. We all out of B vitamins. We ain't got no B vitamins. So we need 1,000 milligrams of everything. We need all these B vitamins, B6, B12, B1, B3, BU, B-me. We need all these B vitamins. We got no A, no C. And then we messed around and we overdid it. We done rolled our ankle. So now that we done rolled our ankle, see, all this got to take into consideration. We done rolled our ankle. So now we're going to need 3 times as much lysine, 3 times as much as vitamin C. Yeah, we're going to need 3 times as much lysine, 3 times as much vitamin C. We're going to need extra leucine. Yeah, we're going to need extra leucine because we need the vitamin C and the lysine along with the copper to stimulate healing, because we got to build extra tissue because we done damaged something in our ankle, right? Then we need the leucine to go along with that, because the lysine, the vitamin C, and the copper is going to stimulate the collagen. But now we need the leucine to stimulate the muscle synthesis, right? So now we need extra. We got to get extra of these. Okay. And now what we got to do? Well, how much amino? Okay, so we're gonna need some. Okay, we need our regular day's amount of essentials plus extra for the ankle, and then we did that chest workout. We need a little extra on the chest. Okay, yeah, we need to send these trucks out. We need to. That's how your body goes, right? But you don't have to keep track of all that. Your body is gonna keep track of all that. You just got to learn the language of your body and learn how to listen to it. All right? So your body's going to keep track of all that. And then you got to worry about the things that create static. There's things that create static. So when your body's trying to talk to you, all you hear is shh. You're not even hearing boom, womp, boom, womp, womp. You're hearing shh. White noise. That's fructose. And that's fructose, whether it's coming from agave syrup at $20 a bottle, or whether it's coming from canned peaches at 69 cents a bottle, right? The money don't matter. The contents do, right? So you're getting that fructose in there. It's not going to show up on your blood sugar, but it's going to definitely show up in your liver. It's going to definitely show up in your water, right? It's going to definitely show up in your pigments, because your aromatic amino acids that turns into catecholamines, that turns into pigments, that whole chain is going to be off, because that's the chain, right? It goes aromatic amino acids, then it goes, those aromatic amino acids turn into catecholamines. Then the catecholamines turns into all of the pigments. Well, I erased the pigments, but the pigments, the opsins, the globins, the melanin, all that comes from catecholamines, right? We'll discuss catecholamines more. That's on deck. That's coming up soon. Yeah, we'll spend a good amount of time on catecholamines, trust me. But fructose busts that chain up. It stops aromatic amino acids from becoming catecholamines and stops catecholamines from becoming pigments. So that's why fructose is so synonymous with fear and cancer. The health gurus, they just know, stay away from that fructose and stay away from high fructose corn syrup, because high fructose corn syrup is basically just a concentrated version of fructose. And then people get confused and go, wait a minute though, doc, I get the smart ones that want to like debunk me, but they want to debunk me in a friendly way. So they go, but hold up though, doc, you said the fruit is healthy for you, right? I already know where they're going. They're just taking the long way around. But you said the fruit is good for us, right? I go, yeah. You said the fructose is bad for us though, right? I'm like, yeah. He said, well, wait a minute. Isn't fructose fruit sugar? Don't we get fructose when we eat fruit? And they feel like they just killed it. They're like, yeah, here you got it. I'm like, this is why I'm telling you, we focus is on pigment and fiber. Because when you get sugar from natural foods, that sugar is attached to pigment and fiber. And so when fructose is attached to pigment and fiber, your body can metabolize the fructose. When fructose is not attached to pigment and fiber, fructose throws your whole entire body mechanics into a frenzy. Just like iron. Iron is crucial for you. If you don't have enough iron, you can't breathe. If you don't have enough iron, if you just get even a little bit low of iron, your body temperature drops. If you get too low on iron, you dead. Your body will stop making blood. But guess what? Even though you need iron, and iron is very important for you, if iron is not attached to transporters, iron is toxic and deadly. If any of that iron separates from a transporter or separates from a pigment, a little drop of iron is enough to take you up out of here. So iron has to be moving through your body at all times with a transporter, transferrin, hemoglobin, something. It has to be some type of pigment or protein carrying the iron. Because if the iron is not carried by something, it can be deadly. Same thing as fructose. Same thing as these sugars. The sugars got to go with the fiber. One of the things that the fibers do is fiber turns into gel, just like sea moss, just like structured water. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Fiber is something that helps your body to create more structured water. Fiber is something that makes these things bioavailable by putting them into gel format. The same way plants take things that your body, it could be poisonous to, and turns it into a format where it's now an essential nutrient. Yeah, if you eat plain rocks, them rocks can kill you. You can't digest that stuff. Yeah. But the plant takes it and do the magic, the processing plant, right? Plant processing. Now it's a nutrient, right? Sugar is the same way. It's designed to be consumed with pigment and fiber. So do not believe for a second that fructose that comes from a laboratory and a warehouse is the same as fructose that comes from a tree and a fruit. You would be confused. Do not make that mistake. Do not make a mistake to believe that anything that comes from a lab in a warehouse is the same that comes from dirt, plant, fruit, seed. Two totally different. That's one of the most powerful phrases of all time in the Bible. The Bible makes sure to stipulate as a detail in the contract. When it tells you in the first chapter what to eat, it's telling you what the seed in it. That is only powerful because everything in that time period has seeds in it. So that means that line in the Bible was a prophecy that at a future time, people would live in a world where fruits and things that's supposed to have seeds in it won't have seeds in it. And in that future world, you will need somebody to tell you, hey, don't eat them watermelons without them seeds in it. Just get the ones with the seed in it. And don't worry about figuring it out. Just trust me. I'm going to tell you like a player told me. Seeds rule everything around me. See, lyrically, can't see me. Buy the seeds, cook the seeds. All right. So fructose, alcohol, which is also fructose, stress, laying around, being lazy, blah, blah, blah. Don't get high off your own supply. Okay. Yep. I think we did good today.
This is why you have to go to Amazon and get the book, Rich Abs, Poor Abs, now.